Well, this is unfamiliar after not having been doing this for so long. How how's it feel to be back?
I don't know yet.
Still trying to figure that out.
Yeah, well, I mean, we just spent the last hour and a half trying to condense your notes.
We just gave
So
up. We gave up. Um,
if this episode is a train wreck, I blame you.
I mean, I blame me too. I'm the one editing it, so
Yeah.
it probably is gonna be a train wreck.
Yeah.
Um,
So apologies in advance if this ends up being a 4 hour long episode.
you're welcome. Uh, so so yeah, we're back. We're back. With probably not something that people were expecting because no announcements were made for it. Um, but we are reviewing this week the first of the Fate series franchise. I guess franchise. Um, the order, just for context, the order we're gonna review these in is my recommended watch order as well. So, we're gonna be starting with 2014's Fate Stay Night Unlimited Blade Works, animated by Studio Ufotable. And from there, hopefully next week, we'll be reviewing Fate Zero. I'm going to have Patrick on for that one. And then after that, jumping into the whole reason we're getting back into it when we are, the Fate Stay Night Heaven's Feel, the third of the trilogy, comes out later this month in the United States. So we're going to be seeing that in theaters with a group of fellow weebs. And following that premiere, everybody's going to be coming back, and we're going to be recording kind of an impromptu sort of spoiler cast. Not a review. I'm going to have to wait till Blu-ray comes out to do the review, but I'm going to be doing kind of like a spoiler cast, just discussion on the movie and things like that. So, in order to get there, though, we have to have some context. In order to have context, we have to start back at square one.
Are you going to do a spoiler cast of the 1 and 2?
Yeah, so
After
we're actually going to do a review of 1 and 2. So what I'm going to do is in the week leading up to going to see those in theaters with everybody, I'm going to watch them on my own, take notes, and then I believe Kate said she would be happy to review 1 and 2 with me.
Right.
Before we go see 3. So that's...
Has she been on any episodes yet?
Nope, not yet.
Slacking.
I mean, this is only like the 8th or 9th
Yeah, I know.
episode, not including Weeb Hour. But anyway, also expect plenty more of those coming up because as soon as we get a few of these reviewed, there's going to be a lot of Fate-related Weeb Hours coming out.
Yeah.
Because as is, I mean, we're going to try to stick to just pretty much reviews themselves and reviews of just, for like right now we're doing Blade Works. We're going to try to stick just to the stuff in Blade Works.
Yeah.
Next week when I do Zero, I'm going to try to stick to just the stuff in Zero. It won't be until we do some of the Weeb Hour discussion episodes that we start talking about how the different shows fit together into the greater timeline and things like that. So
Well, not only that, but even I'm going to be trying to kind of keep it to a minimum on like the emotional meanings and stuff like that. I feel like that's not really, because I have a lot of words.
Yeah.
I have a lot of words.
Yeah, which is not terribly common for this.
And not terribly common for this genre.
Not terribly common for you as a person
well,
either.
I mean, there's a lot of stuff that I have like thoughts and opinions on.
Fair enough.
But like, not usually what's disguised as a shonen anime.
Yeah, and we'll get into that.
It's not a shonen anime.
No, it's not a shonen anime.
Not even close.
This is...
It's an action anime.
It's an action drama.
Well, it's a character drama disguised as an action
It's a
anime.
character drama wearing the skin suit
Yeah,
of a shonen. And, well, you know, with that, I mean, I guess we might as well just jump into it.
Yeah.
I will just, as one final note, the review of Death Parade, it's coming. It's recorded. It's been recorded for the last, 3 months?
Oh, I don't know.
Since right before we left on our trip.
Yeah. I'm not on that one. He's gonna make me help him edit it.
Probably.
I hate it.
No, it should be an easy one. Pat and I did it. It should be an easy edit. We stay on topic when we
Which
record.
is incredible because you never stay on topic when you talk to him any other time.
Yeah, but we're talking about film stuff. Anyway, but yeah, let's just jump right into it. You know, it's getting late. We're getting kind of tired.
I forget how to do this.
We want to get this done. We want to get this done. So
Wait,
let's
How do we do this?
start off. Fate.
Fate. It's a thing.
Unlimited Blade Works.
Yes.
Specifically. What's your... When we first went into it, however many years ago that was, what were you kind of expecting versus what you got out of it?
I didn't know what to expect, and it ended up being one of the most beautifully animated moving shows I've ever watched in my life.
Yeah.
I didn't know what to expect at all. Like, I had never... I had watched, even then, very few anime.
Yeah.
I think primarily it was Soul Eater, Attack on Titan, and various sports animes.
Yeah.
So totally just not...
And like Inuyasha,
Fate.
Blue Exorcist.
No, I hadn't
things like
watched
that.
Inuyasha yet when we started this.
How do you know that?
No, that was... No, I didn't watch Inuyasha until like 2 or 3 years ago.
Oh, interesting. Well, so I mean, fair enough. It caught me off guard.
The animation is surface level, the most notable thing. Surface level.
Surface level, yeah. The animation is.
Like,
I mean,
if
Studio
you are,
Ufotable.
Yeah, if you walk into a room that somebody's watching this show in, and you happen to catch one of the fight scenes, you're gonna be glued to the screen.
Yeah,
your eyes are. You aren't leaving that room until the fight scene is over.
You're definitely
at least.
going to be curious. I mean, and we can compare it a little bit to Demon Slayer because it's the same studio.
It's the same studio.
The fight scenes from Demon Slayer, I mean, a lot of them were pretty gorgeous looking.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, the way they animate.
I mean, I didn't watch Demon Slayer with you guys. I would just kind of
But
was in the same room.
Yeah.
Wasn't riveting to me.
No. I don't want to get into Demon Slayer because
No.
I've already pissed off enough people with my review of that. But
yeah.
But
I mean, more something that I can compare it to ranks up close to how I feel about My Hero Academia.
Yeah, true.
And the fight scenes in My Hero Academia are extremely well animated.
Yeah. But all right, let's jump into it with the plot. What are you thinking about the plot? You know, what are your thoughts on it? I mean, I've got some notes here. You know, but what are your thoughts on how would you describe it?
It's absolutely incomprehensible unless you watch it. That's my thoughts on it. It is by the
it's dense.
Your notes are a tell as to how complex this show is. You can't summarize this show.
Yeah. When we get into the episode summaries, which we're going to be getting into shortly, it's a mess. It's a mess and it's really long.
It is 26 episodes of a mess.
I wrote 10 pages of notes.
Yeah.
Overall, I'm sorry, not 10 pages of notes. 10 pages of episode summary.
Yeah.
Overall, my notes in total, I did a count. There were 63 pages.
I know.
And just over 25,000 words.
I know.
So, this was a dense show. Every single time I watch it, it reminds me how phenomenal it is, and I see new things. But best hope for us right now, for staying on topic, let's just run through the bullet points as we have them. and we'll go from there.
Okay.
Okay, so from me, the way I felt about the plot is it does seem fairly straightforward at first. It lays out kind of all the plot elements at the beginning, but then it kind of like distracts you with what you think is the main plot, so that what you don't realize that the side plot is actually like the main point of the show. It's like it sets up this main plot and then these little kind of like side things, like these little character arcs and things like that. And in a typical show, those would be like, oh, while we're resolving the main plot, we're gonna just it's like and it does it. This show completely flips it.
Mm.
But yeah, at its core, the show is a character drama. It really, really is a character drama.
Yeah. For sure. I mean, the relationships between the characters is what ends up.
It's the core of the show. I mean,
making
and especially
the
the arc in this one in Bladeworks specifically, it's a character arc.
Yeah.
That's what where all the conflict comes from in it.
Yeah.
The only other thing I'll say about the plot is if you're gonna give this a watch, which spoiler alert, this is you should go into this knowing nothing.
Yeah.
This is one show I went into it knowing absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
And it absolutely blew me away.
Yeah.
And I think it was the same thing with you, and it's the same thing with everyone else that I got to watch it. And this is the show that turned my little brother into an anime fan.
Yeah.
And this is what turned me into the big anime fan that I am today.
Yeah. I introduced you to this world, but once you found Fate, you became so much more of a weeb than me.
Oh yeah.
Like
it made me stronger.
Okay. Sure. We'll go with that. But no, I mean, I started watching anime in high school, but it was just, oh, I like this show. This show's cool. Yeah, this is a cute show. And then I show him Fate, and he's like, oh, shit. Anime's cool.
No, wait.
Or not.
Yeah.
I showed you anime, and then you found Fate, and you're like, oh, shit.
Yeah. Yeah, so... But jumping back to what I was saying, though, it's please go watch this. Watch this. It's on Netflix. It's on Hulu. It's on Crunchyroll. It's on Funimation. Yeah. It's on probably any... I mean,
Verve, whatever is owned by Crunchyroll, I think.
Yeah, I imagine it's on... It's probably on everything but Disney+. Like,
probably.
This...
Which, no, it is on Disney+, because Disney owns Hulu. So, I'm pretty sure
at this point... But I don't think you can actually access it through Disney+. I think I've tried looking for it a few times. But anyway.
If you have Disney+, you have Hulu, though.
Yeah.
So you can log into
so
Hulu
please,
watch it.
Go watch this. Go watch this show. It is so fucking phenomenal, and you will not regret it.
Yeah.
It'll be the best, 9 hours of your life.
Press pause. Go watch it. Okay, so you watched it now.
We'll still be here.
You watched it now.
Yeah.
So now we can review it.
Yeah. This is gonna have massive spoilers. I mean, there are huge plot twists in this show, and they're phenomenal. But in order to get to them, you have to, when you go to watch it, you have to kind of break through the first 3 or 4 episodes.
Yeah, it's a little bit. You always say it's a slow build. It's not that much of a slow build. It's got a lot of exposition, but most shows do. Most shows have an episode or 2 of exposition, but they punctuate it pretty nicely with a few moments of action and some...
It's mostly you get 2 alright fights in the first couple episodes, and then you get
I think
2 full episodes of talking.
I think the reason it's hard to... I think the reason you think it's hard to... You say it's hard to start is because the first 2 episodes are the same chunk of time.
Yeah, but I mean, it's told from 2 different perspectives.
Told from the 2 main characters' different perspectives.
Yeah.
So it goes through the first character's perspective on this day, and then it time jumps back to
to the start
of that
episode.
day, and then it goes through the second main character.
Yeah, it's like a 3 day. It's like a 3 days over the course of like one episode, and then it repeats that 3 days for the second episode.
So,
but yeah. I mean, I just think like the first few episodes, they can be a bit much. They can be a bit hard. You know, they're just so dense. There's so much information thrown at you in such a short period of time.
Yeah.
As soon as the fight with Berserker happens, though, from then on, it's all uphill.
Yeah, it's paced. Aside from the first 3 episodes, it's paced perfectly.
Yeah. So.
And
season 2 does not slow down.
No.
Once you get past the fight with Berserker, everything's paced really, really well, and season 2 really does not slow down.
Yeah. Once you start season 2, if you're anything like either of us, you're gonna have a very hard time stopping.
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much just watch the last episode of season 1 all the way through to like until I had to leave for class in the morning. Continuously.
Yes.
And then as soon as I got home, after packing all my crap and moving back home, from college for the summer, I continued watching it before falling asleep. It was bad. It was not healthy.
Yeah.
But it is a little bit slow paced to get into. That is the one thing I'll say about it. And the only other thing I'll say about it is, I've had one person I've recommended this to that hasn't liked it. The reason they didn't like it is because at times it can get a little bit dark. And they said that there was too much negativity.
Oh, right.
You know who I'm talking
I remember now. I was like, who do we know that doesn't like a little bit of darkness in their shows?
Yeah, no, it's
not.
It has brief moments in it. It has like generally kind of a nihilistic tone overall. Sort of like I mean, the title of the franchise is Fate.
Yeah.
And fate is a huge element throughout everything in the Fate franchise. Fate is a massive element. And the kind of the way a lot of Blade Works goes is it's like characters ultimately forced to confront their fate, and it has this sense of like inescapable nihilism in a way, but you there's no way to do it justice unless you watch it, I think, is what we're trying to say. But beyond that, tone. How do you feel about the tone?
I mean,
we addressed it a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we did pretty much address it.
I'd say it fluctuates between pretty extreme highs, quite a few extreme highs, and like a couple extreme lows. There's a few moments of like really upbeat, either like really like, oh my god, that was so badass, like yay, they're winning, and also moments of like, oh, that's the cutest thing I've ever seen, oh, I love it.
Yeah.
Talking to You, season 1 finale. And then there's moments of extreme lows. Talking to You, season 1 finale. And like season 2 episode 4, I think it was. There's some dark moments in it, but overall, if you've seen anything other than like a comedy anime, you've
or like your basic slice of life, like anything other than like a straight up and down slice of life or a comedy.
If you've seen anything with any sort of fighting or conflict in it, this is probably like,
I don't even know.
There's pretty much just one scene I can think of that's like, even I have a hard time with it, and we'll get to that. I even made a special note in my notes, in the summary. I made a special note about that episode.
I didn't get that far in your
summary. Characters. I'll let you talk first about the characters. I have some words I'd like to say because of criticisms that people levy at the show, and I would like to make a public service announcement. So I'll let you go first.
Okay, I mean, especially given their ages, the characters behave pretty believably,
Mm-hmm.
if you ask me. Given their ages and given what they've all been through in their own personal struggles.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, the believable behavior. I mean, the two main characters are what, 17?
Yeah, 17, 16, 17. 17.
17.
Yeah.
And
because they're almost at the end of their second of 3 years of high school.
yes, and they still graduated 18 in Japan. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they're 17, and they've both had a rough go of it.
You could say that.
So they're surviving trauma.
Yeah.
In what I believe to be a very normal way. Believable human way.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously it's an anime. There's some creative justice.
Yeah.
But
do you
nothing
think
so nothing so far removed from reality that it's unbelievable.
How do you feel about some of the side characters?
Side characters, I love them all.
I would say there's like a couple that have moments of being like almost caricatures, but I think that's just kind of like because you barely meet them.
Here's what I think about that. It is a very serious show a lot of the time, and sometimes you've got to have something to break that tension.
Yeah.
And that is Fujine.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just need her to come in and do something ridiculous.
Yeah, like Fujine, Mitsuzuri, Issei, they're...
I mean, Issei is normal boy. Yes, I am real boy.
Okay.
So, I mean, yeah, but yeah, no.
Yeah,
like
I mean, they're characters that are kind of...
boy TM.
Yeah. So,
but
you got a mix.
They're side characters.
I understand.
Like they're side characters. You don't.
I feel like they could if they got more screen time. I feel like they
would lose their caricatureness.
Yes. Yeah. I feel like they only seem that way, and even Fujine has like these couple moments.
Oh yeah.
Where you're like,
yeah.
Poor baby. Like,
I love her so very
talking
much.
to you, season 1 finale.
Okay. She's a sweet girl.
She's a sweet big sister.
Yes.
I need to soapbox for a minute about the characters.
Okay.
People, I have seen many people rag on the show, even fans of the franchise. I specifically am referring to people who are like VN stans who have very negative views, very negative opinions on the way the protagonist is portrayed in Blade Works. I have heard so many people say that the protagonist Shiro is an unrealistic, unbelievable, non-convincing caricature of a person. And that there's no way anybody would ever be like that. I have fucking news for you. I am like that. It sucks all the time. But no, trauma, specifically the kind of trauma he experienced, trauma can make you utterly and completely devoid of any sense of self-worth or sense of survival instinct.
Yeah.
You become nothing but a robot trying to find meaning in the lives of the people around you. That's it. That's his character arc.
Yeah.
And
I think a lot of the reason why they are like that from the VN is because the VN is...
You can read thoughts in the VN.
Well, it's also... I'm sure that most people, when they read the VN, they end up taking the route that they would be most likely to take down first, and then going back and reading through the rest of them. So their first exposure to it would be what they would do.
Well, I think you have to beat the Fate route first in the VN before you can unlock the ability to do the other routes.
I don't know, something, but still,
regardless,
I mean,
Yeah, I get it. You know, you can kind of like put yourself into it more, and you can sort of project your own
Yeah,
feelings onto it, as opposed to when you're watching it and you're kind of just like watching somebody else make all the decisions. Like, I understand, like, one of the scenes that gets called out specifically is like the scene at Castor's Temple, where, you know, I mean, we'll get into it, but people call it the scene at Castor's Temple where Archer goes to rescue him, and they're like, "That he's so stupid, he's so arrogant. Why would he not want help?" You don't get it. You don't get his character.
Yeah.
If you can't wrap your mind around why he is the way he is, then you're missing the point of his entire character arc. The whole conflict of the show, the entire purpose of the Blade Works route is about his character arc
Yeah.
and his inability to care for his own well-being. That's the point.
Yeah.
So people who are criticizing it, if you're one of the people that thinks Shiro's written unrealistically, no, no, be lucky that you think that.
Yeah.
Because that means that you aren't dealing with it.
Yeah, and you don't live with it.
Yeah. Shut up. So I'm sorry, I had to soapbox for a minute. It is one of the things that drives me absolutely up the wall when I hear people talking about the show. But I think the reason everybody I've recommended it to has liked it so much and not had that criticism is they all know me.
Yeah.
So, sorry, back to what we were doing. I'm done, I swear.
Do you have to respect women? Are you going to run into oncoming traffic?
Don't I? Other than that, every character, I swear, I'm almost positive that you could pick out any character that gets like any amount of screen time in the show, and you could figure out what their unique motivation is, and you could connect every action they take back to, the goal that they're after.
Even Issei.
Yeah, that is the...
And he's student council president.
He's student council president, and he's the heir to a temple.
Yeah.
Every single character, and this is the mark of good writing and good characters, every character's actions is to propel them towards their own unique goal. And at the moments along that arc where in order to achieve their objective, the things they need to do line up with something that another character needs to achieve their objective, they work together. And then you see the moments where they stop working together as soon as whatever objective needed to be completed was completed, and they're now on to the next phase of achieving their goal.
Yeah.
You see this all the time, that one of the biggest characters you see it in is Archer. And, we'll get into that.
Yeah, we'll get into
that. But, so as far as the setting, it's set in the fictional but based on a real city, but the title is fictional city of Fuyuki, Japan. And it is set from, I believe, January 31st of 2004 through the middle of February. And I believe it's almost exactly 2 weeks from the start of episode 1 through the end of the second to last, if not the epilogue. And it also takes place 10 years after the previous Holy Grail War, which will make sense if you've seen the show.
Yes. The city is based on the real city of Kobe.
Kobe?
Kobe.
Okay.
Kobe.
Right. And I believe they have
it's like a tourist destination.
Yeah, they have the bridge, they have Tosaka Manor, they've got the temple and stuff like that. The church. The Emiya residence as well? Yeah. Nice. I'm gonna have to go there. Style, I mean, we talked about it. The animation's gorgeous. The backgrounds are phenomenal. The CGI is phenomenal. This was done by Ufotable 5 years prior to Demon Slayer, and I'm sorry, but the CGI looks better.
Yeah.
The CGI looks way cleaner and way better in this than it did in Demon Slayer. So, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Shonen fans. This is better. Sound design. I pretty much had like 3 notes. I said some of the music choices in the first half of the prologue are kind of interesting. They give it a very like kind of slice of life sort of feel to it.
There's 2 kinds of sound design in my opinion. There's sound design that you don't notice.
Yeah.
Because you're so...
Effective sound design, basically.
Well, not... Hold on. There's sound design that you don't notice because it draws you in. And there's sound design that's designed to stand out and be the thing that draws your attention. This is the form. It's very much sound. I don't notice any of the sound cues unless I'm thinking about it.
That's true.
It's very subtle and very effective at setting the mood without you noticing.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, definitely the prologue, like some of the musical cues in it, they give it a very slice of life feeling, which is interesting because it kind of like...
I guess so.
It deceives you a little bit into thinking it's like, oh, it's gonna be a cute, sweet little romance show.
It definitely 100% does set itself up in the first 2 episodes to be a slice of life, which is really... It gives you whiplash a little bit if you're not careful.
Yeah. I think you can pick up pretty quickly. Like, by the end of the prologue, I think you can tell, like, what it's going to be. I mean, given that, you know, there's a fucking battle at the end of it and somebody gets murdered.
Well, that's what I mean by whiplash.
Yeah. The only other notes I have are the opening theme for Season 1 slaps, and so does the opening theme for Season 2.
Yes. 1 slaps harder than 2.
You think Season 1 slaps way more?
I mean, Season 2 opening is extremely good, but I wouldn't quite give it the qualifier of slaps. I would say that it's extremely good.
I'll slap you.
No.
I'm kidding.
I'm not saying even that you were peaking a little bit there, I think. I'm not saying that it's worse. I would say that they're equally good, but... One is like a...
One slaps.
Gets you into it, whereas 2 is kind of like, yes, this is very good, nice music, yes. I like this sound that's happening in my ears.
Okay. All right. Well, let's jump into the characters then. It's a good thing that you kind of made sure that we...
I don't want to hear it.
Parse this down a little bit with the characters, because otherwise this would have taken an hour.
Shit. Sorry, I bumped the table.
Whatever. Alright, I'll start.
You better. Well, because if I start, I read Shiro, and then you read Tosuka. And
okay,
that's
you
just
start.
That's just not something that I'm willing to do.
Alright. First major character. By the way, this is a long list of characters, because there's a lot of characters in this show.
So, yes. Primarily, you hear from, like, 3 or 4. Through the whole thing, you hear from 3 or 4.
There are 4 characters that are, like, really, like, the pivotal ones.
Yeah.
The master-servant pairs that make up the 2 protagonists.
Yeah.
But
yeah, the rest of them are... super duper
yeah, and they all get a lot of development except for like a couple. So first character, Shiro Emiya. He is the main protagonist. He is Saber's master. He is altruistic. He's a paragon, and he is selfless and will put himself in harm's way to protect others.
To a fault.
To a fault, very much so.
Rin Tosuka, master archer. She is boisterous but secretly shy, aka tsundere.
Yeah.
You know, Google tsundere, you find Rin.
Yeah.
It's
like 3 of the first 5 images on Google.
She's eager to face challenges head on, very intelligent and a quick learner. an extremely powerful mage who specializes in magic involving the transfer of energy between oneself and their surroundings, specifically in things like crystals.
Yeah, so she's a crystal mage.
Yes.
And she's best girl.
Yes.
Sakura Matau. She's humble, quiet, very apologetic. She's in the archery club. Her role basically is that she's Shiro's kohai. Essentially, that's the role she serves in the show, in this one at least. She also functions as Shinji's younger sister, and she is potentially, it's hinted that she is a victim of abuse at the hands of her brother.
Oh.
Yay, you get to
order
read
them this way?
The Best Boy.
Trash boy, garbage.
Garbage boy, stink man.
Garbage boy, stink man. Oh, Shinji Matau. Super overly confident and arrogant. Sakura's older brother. Abusive. No sense of loyalty. And Master's Ryder. Ryder's master.
You got it.
Yeah,
You're doing great.
I got to it eventually.
You're doing phenomenal.
We got there. Yeah, I hate this sorry excuse for a human being so very much.
Next is Tyga Fujimara. She is one of the teachers at their high school. She's very energetic, immature, spends most of her time staying at Shiro's house. She is the landlord's daughter, and she sees herself as a sort of a pseudo big sister to Shiro. And she's also a bit of a hooligan, a bit of a prankster, if you will.
Next we have Elias von Einsburn. She is Berserker's master, an extremely powerful mage.
Mini mage.
She is tiny baby, but actually not.
Mini mage.
Yes. She is Kiritsugu's daughter, who was abandoned after the last war. She eventually turned from a loving, sweet little girl into a cold, ruthless killing machine after years of psychological abuse and physical torture.
Yay.
Sad.
A sweet baby.
Sad baby.
She needs head pats and hugs.
Yes, desperately.
Oh, I get to read
Shit priest.
The Best Boy.
Stop. Stop joking about that because I hate it.
Next we have Kirei Kotomine. He is a priest. He is Rin's caretaker after her parents passed away. The overseer of the Grail War and of the local church. And secretly, he's the master of Lancer. But you didn't hear that from me.
Please stop.
Next.
I hate you so much. Next we have Soshiro Kazuki, who is Caster's master. He's a teacher at the school. He is not a mage.
Not a mage.
Which I didn't pick up on because I'm an idiot.
Yeah, I don't know how many times you've seen the show and you did not know he was not a mage.
No. He fooled me.
He literally wasn't even trying to. He says, I'm not a mage.
I didn't.
Like 4 times.
I can't read. Anyway, he grew up as an assassin, but after killing his target, he felt empty and chose to leave that life behind to become a teacher and try to find meaning in his existence.
Me too.
Okay.
Low-key, do you wanna read the next one and I'll read the one after?
No.
Fine. God, I hate you.
Okay.
Next we have Saber. She is probably one of the main servants that you're gonna recognize. She's the...
Well, if you've ever interacted with any Fate media ever,
you've seen her.
You know who this is.
Yeah. And spoiler alert, her true identity is Arturia Pendragon, which if that sounds at all familiar, it's because it's a feminine version of Arthur Pendragon, who is King Arthur of Camelot. She is extraordinarily powerful among servants. She was summoned by Shiro. She, we find out, was summoned to this time period once before, She loves food.
Very important.
I guess that was an important note to include.
It is. It's extremely important.
Her wish is to stop herself from drawing the sword from the stone that allowed her to become King Arthur, feeling that it was her fault that the kingdom fell. And her noble phantasm is Excalibur, the holy sword of light. Basically, when activated, it essentially turns into super laser sword. Don't really know how else to describe it.
Yeah.
Big laser sword. Go boom.
Big sword.
Big sword.
Yes.
Chunkster.
Yes. Okay. I'm gonna... Alright.
Chunkster.
Okay. Alright. Next we have Archer.
Archer.
Who is no ordinary heroic spirit, and is in fact a defender of the counterforce, otherwise known as a counter guardian tasked with protecting humanity from itself. He was summoned by Rin, claims to have no memory of his true identity, stoic but secretly very sentimental, which is a kudere. He's very powerful, pragmatist, and his noble phantasm is Unlimited Blade Works, a reality marble that manifests Archer's inner world into reality, creating a world filled with infinite forgeries of noble phantasms that he can control at will.
Basically, he just sword spams at people.
Yeah.
Nice. Yay! You know what? I'm glad now that we did it in this order. Next up, we have Lancer. Lancer's identity is Cuchulainn. He is Ireland's Child of Light. He is the first servant to have their identity revealed. He despises his master. And his noble phantasm is Gebolg. It is able to rewrite time and reverse cause and effect in order to always strike for the heart for an instant kill. Alternatively, he can throw his noble phantasm to essentially turn it into a tomahawk missile. I mean, I don't... That's what it is, okay?
He's basically just a puppy with a spear.
Okay, yeah,
He's a good boy.
All right, we'll go with that.
Because even though he despises his master, he still follows his orders. He just complains the whole time.
You know, you really fucked up, like, not letting me switch at the beginning here, because...
I don't care. You should have put the characters in a different order. If you so badly wanted to read certain ones.
I mean... Keep reading, I'll kill you.
Okay. Next we have Berserker. His true identity is Heracles, summoned by Elias. Powerful enough to face the other 6 servants alone and hold his own. Yeah. Extremely powerful and agile.
Didn't pick up on that one
No.
when you were editing, did you?
No. I'll kind of modify that a little bit. His agility is extremely surprising when you watch him fight for his size.
He's a big muscle boy.
He's enormous. He's like 9 feet tall.
Yeah.
But he moves as...
And he's probably like 8 feet wide.
Yeah. But he moves as... almost with the same agility as Lancer.
Yeah.
It's quite startling. His noble phantasm is the 12 labors, which is the ability to resurrect from death up to 12 times every 3 days.
Next we have Castor, who is Medea, princess of Colchis. She is a witch.
I hate you so
As
very
much as she hates the term witch, she's a witch. She is the master of assassin, despite being a servant herself. She is also Kazuki's servant, and her noble phantasm is Rulebreaker, which is able to nullify any and all magic cast and even sever pacts with servants, allowing her to become their new masters. Her wish is simply to return home.
Okay, next we have Assassin, who's Saki Kojiro. He is even more skilled sword fighter than Saber. He is not the true assassin because he is a false servant. His noble phantasm is Swallow Reversal, which creates a space-time rift that allows him to make 3 different strikes with his sword simultaneously. Interesting fact is, technically he never existed. His legend is merely an amalgamation of many exaggerated feats, all attributed after the fact to one fictional man. The man who is assassin was never Sasaki Kojiro, merely a nameless swordsman who was deemed worthy to wear the mantle, and thus he has no desires of his own.
Sad boy. Alright, next up, we have Ryder, who is going to be a short one, because she dies pretty much instantly.
Yeah.
She utilizes chains with daggers on them as our weapons. You can see with the script in the bottom of the barrel here. She's Shinji's servant. She is the servant that created the bounded field around the school. And she's the first to be killed of all the servants.
Because Shinji is incompetent.
Yeah.
Useless garbage boy stink man.
Okay. And last, but certainly not least.
God, I wish he was least. We have Gilgamesh, or Blondie as he is referred to for most of the show.
Yeah, because you don't find out his identity for like a while, so.
He is an archer class servant. He has some connection to Kirei. He is offered to Shinji by Kirei as a replacement after Ryder's death. Is exceedingly powerful and has no mercy. His noble phantasm is Sword of Rupture Ea, the first object crafted by the gods that gave rise to the concept of weapon. This quote-unquote sword is capable of destroying even planets should the wielder desire so and have the mana to make it happen.
Yeah, so he's a wee bit OP.
A little bit.
A wee bit. Alright, now for the part we've been dreading.
I hate this so much.
Yeah, I know. Let's just get through it.
Oh my god.
Let's read through them. Alright. Episode list. We're going to have 27 items on here. I just want to make a preliminary note.
Oh, right, right.
The first item on the list is the prologue. The second to last item is the epilogue. And the last item is the OVA alternate ending.
Why is that summary so long? It is 10 minutes.
Don't worry about it. We'll get to it.
It's 10 minutes.
Don't worry about it. This shut up. The last episode, the last item on the list is going to be the OVA alternate ending, which I'm sorry, that's the canon ending, and you can't change my mind.
It is a canon ending, technically.
Welcome to the Fate universe.
Yeah.
All right. Episode 1. The prologue follows Rin Tosuka, a high schooler who is also secretly a mage, who is participating in a ritual called the Holy Grail War. She summons her servant, Archer, and proceeds to prepare herself for the coming battle. However, she soon faces a harsh reality of her situation when she's forced to make a big sacrifice to save an innocent bystander who was caught up in her fight with an enemy servant.
Alright, technically episode 1. We meet Shiro Emiya, the protagonist of the series, and follow him through the same events of the prologue, but from his perspective. He is in the same grade as Tosuka and is a very amateur mage who can only seem to use strengthening magic, which he uses to help fix the club equipment or student council president. Life is fairly normal for him up until he is attacked by Lancer after school one day and is saved by a mysterious girl afterward. He then goes back home where he is attacked again by Lancer but saves himself by accidentally summoning Saber to protect him. She fights off Lancer and then goes to attack Archer and Tosuka, where Shiro accidentally uses a command seal to stop her, saving Archer.
Yay. Next episode, I'm gonna just call them episode 3. I'm gonna name them in order because that's how Netflix has them, and it's rather than just whatever. Episode 3. Ren begins explaining the rules of the Grail War to Shiro, trying to give him a better understanding of what he's found himself wrapped up in. They then go to the Fuki Church to visit the overseer of the Holy Grail War, Kirei Kotomine, who further explains the rules. Shiro is initially against participating in such a brutal ritual until Kirei reveals to him that there was another Grail War 10 years earlier that caused the disaster that left him an orphan. After that, Shiro decides to fight to keep the Grail from falling into the hands of an indiscriminate killer. After leaving the church, Tosuka announces that since Shiro is now officially a master, they will be enemies next time they meet. Shiro tells her he won't fight her, but just as they begin arguing, they're interrupted by another master, with servant in tow.
Episode 4. The first true battle of the Fifth Grail War begins as Archer and Saber clash with the Berserker. However, Berserker's abilities are such that Archer's attacks are utterly ineffective, and Saber is forced to lure Berserker away to an area with more cover to more effectively fight him one-on-one. Meanwhile, Rin ambushes Elias von Einsburn, Berserker's master, in hopes of defeating her and ending the battle. However, Ilya is no easy foe, and Rin comes very close to being killed. Fortunately, Archer comes in at the last minute to rescue her. Saber, determined to end the fight once and for all, goes for broke, unleashing her Noble Phantasm and blasting Berserker nearly in half. But his Noble Phantasm allows him to resurrect, and Archer tries to finish him off for good with a Phantasm of his own, but it proves just as ineffective as his previous attacks. Berserker is able to retreat with Ilya. However, after the battle, all is not well as Shiro suddenly collapses following Archer's attack.
Episode 5, Shiro wakes up at home with Tosaka looking over him. Soon learns that his injuries from the night before were healed via his own powers rather than through the use of Rin's healing magic. Rin leaves and says that the next time she sees him, they'll be enemies. Shiro and Saber discuss more Grail War logistics before Shiro has to stop by the school to run an errand, with Saber in tow. On the way home with Sakura and Fujine, Shiro says Saber is a friend of Kirutsugu's, his father, and that she'll be living with him for a while. Fujine decides that her and Sakura will do the same for a while. Elsewhere, Rin and Archer investigate the coma incidents around the city, revealing that Castor is behind them and that she's sequestered herself at Ryudo Temple. Archer questions why Rin hasn't dealt with Shiro yet. She says that so long as he stays out of her way, he's no threat, but if he continues to ignore his role as master, she will kill him.
Episode 6. Shiro dreams about a conversation he had with Kurutsugu about being a hero, recalling the moment when he committed himself to the ideal of becoming a hero of justice. After breakfast, he heads off to school, leaving Saber behind, much to her dismay. Tosaka seems incredibly upset to see him at school, but just walks away upon seeing him. We soon learn that the head of the archery club, Mitsuri, went missing after last being seen arguing with the club's co-captain, Shinji, and that all students were being asked to go home early from school for their safety. Naturally, Shiro ignores this and investigates after school, where Rin corners him and attacks him. The two are interrupted by a scream, and when investigating, Shiro saves Rin from being attacked herself, before running off to face the servant on his own. Rin eventually jumps in to protect him, scare the enemy off, and the two head back to her place and discuss a temporary truce until they track down the other master at school.
Episode 7. Archer educates Shiro on the true role of servants in the world, informing him that all servants are mere puppets, stripped of free will and forced to fight as tools for their masters. Shiro gets home and decides to start training with Saber to increase his combat effectiveness. Later at school, Shiro and Rin go around erasing sigils that have been placed around the school by an enemy servant in order to weaken the servant's hold on the school. After school, Shiro is cornered by Shinji, who confesses to being a fellow master and asks Shiro to team up with him, which Shiro declines. Later, Shiro is taken in his sleep by Castor, who brings him to her stronghold at Ryudo Temple in order to extract his command seals, but Archer arrives just in time to save him, while Saber is stopped at the temple entrance by Assassin.
Episode 8. Archer faces off against Castor at Ryudo Temple while protecting Shiro, but just as it seems Castor has Archer cornered, he turns the table and brings her down with a single blow. However, he refuses to finish her off and allows her to escape to heal. Shiro vows to take Castor down regardless, but while his back is turned, Archer attacks and mortally wounds him. Meanwhile, Saber and Assassin fight at the front gate. We learn that Assassin is actually a false servant summoned by Castor against the rules and that he is tasked with guarding the temple. As the battle inside escalates, Assassin unleashes his Noble Phantasm against Saber, who barely manages to avoid the attack. When Shiro tumbles down the temple steps, why is that a tongue twister? It shouldn't be. When Shiro tumbles down the temple steps, Saber rushes to his side, and Assassin, captivated by Saber's concern for Shiro, protects the two from Archer. Saber and Shiro escape while Archer and Assassin duel.
Episode 9. Following the fight at Ryudo Temple, Shiro trains with Saber, drawing inspiration from the fighting techniques employed by Archer the night prior and using them with great effect to keep up with Saber. At school, Rin and Shiro discuss Archer's behavior, and Rin reveals that she used a second command seal, to force Archer not to attack Shiro, so long as her alliance with him still stands. The two then discuss Shinji being a master, and Rin says she rejected his offer to team up that morning. But at that moment, Shinji and Ryder activate the bounded field around the school, trapping everyone inside and slowly draining their life force to feed Ryder. Shiro uses his second command seal to summon Saber to help, whereas Rin is unable to reach Archer through normal means. The three split up, Saber tracking down the servant on the second floor, and Rin and Shiro going to destroy the bounded field. However, when the two get there, Ryder was already killed by an unknown assailant, and Shinji was too terrified to say who it was. Elsewhere, Saber defeats Ryder, only to discover it was an illusion created by Castor, indicating that Castor's master is also someone from the school. After the field comes down, the three make sure everyone is still alive and call the Overseer for help, with Rin commenting on Shiro's impressive ability to stay calm throughout the incident.
Episode 10. Archer finally shows up to the school right as the three are leaving. After being told what happened, Archer proceeds to mock Ryder's death, upsetting Saber. He then further presses Saber, causing her to threaten him. All three find his behavior oddly suspicious. The church successfully covers up the incident at the school as being a chemical spill, and classes are set to resume immediately. Shinji, now without a servant, heads to the Fuyuki church and asks Kirei, as the overseer, to grant him protection. Kirei prompts him to keep fighting and even offers to provide him a replacement servant. Next day at school, Rin suggests that the student council president, Issei Ryudo, may be Castor's master, as he lives at the temple that she made into her base. Issei is cleared after Shiro forces him to strip, revealing he has no command seals. The episode ends with Fujine recounting to Saber about Shiro's childhood growing up with Kurutsugu, and when Saber asks Shiro why he wants to be a hero of justice, he excuses himself, thinking back to Archer's world at Ryudo Temple, and reaffirming his dream of becoming a hero, despite Archer's words of discouragement.
Episode 11. Archer and Rin argue over their plan going forward with the Grail War. Archer wants Rin to betray Shiro and side with Castor, but Rin isn't having it and shuts him down. At school, Issei reveals that their teacher, Mr. Kazuki, is also living at Ryudo Temple with his new quote-unquote fiancé, and Rin determines that this woman must be Castor. Shiro agrees to meet Rin that night to set up an ambush for Kazuki to test him and see if he's a master. When Kazuki shows up, they confirm that he is in fact Castor's master, but isn't a mage and has no interest in the Grail War. However, because they attacked, he will defend himself. Saber goes in for an attack, but Kazuki reveals himself to be a master martial artist whose skills are enhanced by Castor's magic, and he handily incapacitates Saber. He then knocks Rin out and destroys Shiro's Sinai. Shiro, in a moment of desperation to save Rin, accidentally summons Archer's twin blades and is able to fight Kazuki long enough for Saber to jump back in and cause Castor and Kazuki to retreat. Shiro reveals that he is capable of projection magic, but never could make anything of use with it, so he gave up on using it until that moment, expressing genuine shock that he was able to pull off what he did. Elsewhere, Shinji meets up with Blondie, who we discover is a servant. Blondie reveals that he has bigger plans than the Grail War and suggests Shinji stay out of his way. Shinji asks what Blondie's wish is, and he hints at some level of genocide, expressing his disgust at the superfluous nature of human life in the modern era compared to in his time.
Episode 12. After projecting Archer's swords the night before, Shiro finds himself completely numb on the left side of his body. He tries to keep it a secret from Saber, making up excuses. After forgetting to meet Rin for lunch, she shows up at his house and invites herself inside to eat. They discuss their game plan, and then Shiro and Rin go out to the courtyard to talk in private. Rin discusses her childhood growing up as a mage and confesses to being a hedonist, not doing anything unless she herself truly wants it. She asks Shiro if he's had fun working with her through the war, being a mage, and he hesitates, not sure how to answer. She presses him, now upset, and he confesses that he never found magecraft fun and only really did it because he wanted to be of use to others. He then says he feels like he can't live for himself, as he doesn't deserve any more wishes after being saved by Kurutsugu as a child. Rin, upset by Shiro's inability to consider his own happiness, storms off, insisting that she has a plan to deal with him tomorrow. Later, Shiro is practicing his magic when Saber confronts him about his arm. Just then, Archer shows up in the doorway and offers to help fix his pain and numbness, explaining that he once experienced a similar issue. Before he leaves, Shiro finally asks him about his comments at Ryoto Temple. Archer gets into his philosophy about why one should fight and the value of ideals versus reality. He says that if Shiro will not set aside his ideals, then those ideals will become his undoing. With that, he leaves, and Shiro is left to consider the weight of his words.
Episode 13. Halfway there. Rin reveals her secret plan was a big date day with Shiro. The two, accompanied by Saber, go off to the next town over to have fun, following Rin's plans. Rin flirts hard with Shiro, who struggles to stay level-headed throughout, and the three just have a good time together. However, on the trip home, their bus drives into a bounded field set up by Castor, who has Fujine hostage. After Castor reveals to Rin that Shiro harbors hatred for the Grail because of what it did to him as a child, Shiro offers his command seals in exchange for Fujine's life. Castor is about to kill Shiro when Saber steps in, and Shiro accidentally uses his final command seal to stop her, allowing Castor to use her noble phantasm to make Saber into her own servant, then forcing Saber via command seal to kill Rin. But at the last second, Shiro dives in the way and is impaled by Saber's sword. Just then, Archer breaks through the field and saves Rin, Shiro, and Fujine before escaping. Rin brings the two injured parties back to her house to recover, and Archer asks if this is the end of her alliance with Shiro, to which she says that it's not over until he says he wants out. They then leave to track down Castor. Shiro then wakes up in Rin's room and finds the amulet that she used to save him on her night table, and vows to continue fighting despite his injuries. Elsewhere, Castor takes Saber to the Fuyuki Church and confronts Kirei in search of the Lesser Grail. Kirei fights off some golems while Castor, revealed to be the princess of Colchis, Medea, searches the church basement with Saber. The season ends with Shiro confronting Rin on the rooftop from the prologue, where Rin desperately tries to talk him into walking away and giving up so he doesn't get killed. Shiro refuses, and Rin and Archer leave him behind. We get one last look at all the remaining masters and servants before the season comes to a close.
Episode 14. Season 2 begins with Shiro returning home to patch up his wounds and reflect on why he chose to fight in the first place. He then sets off to follow Rin, bringing the amulet he found at her house with him. Rin has another dream about Archer's origin, this time revealing that Archer is a special class of heroic spirit known as a Defender, summoned to save humanity from itself at times of great strife, and that he soon lost hope in humanity and gave up on his ideal to save humanity, becoming the jaded servant he is now. The two track Castor to the church basement, Shiro following closely behind. As soon as the fight begins, Archer double-crosses Rin and asks Castor if he can take her up on her previous offer to join her team, saying she's now all but guaranteed to win. Castor agrees and uses Rule Breaker to make him her servant. Shiro jumps down to protect Rin from Kazuki, and Archer negotiates with Castor to allow Rin and Shiro to leave safely. On the way home, Rin and Shiro talk, and she asks why he saved her, at which point Shiro finally confesses to having feelings for her, and the two come together prepared to continue the fight together.
Episode 15. Rin and Shiro agree that their best bet is to team up with a master who still possesses a servant in order to take down Castor. They agree that Elias and Berserker are their best bet and set off to speak with her. Meanwhile, Castor recalls the events following her summons at the hands of a mage from the Mages Association. He was a rich narcissist who sacrificed kidnapped victims to create mana crystals. Castor, not one for senseless slaughter despite how she boasts, finds this practice inefficient and abhorrent, demanding he shut down his workshop. He is angered by this and goes to speak with Kirei, the Overseer, and asks him to give Lancer's master, another mage from the association, permission to kill Castor so he can summon a new servant. However, he returns to find his workshop destroyed by Castor and discovers that she used Rule Breaker to sever her pact with him, effectively killing herself. Her last actions before her death being to kill the man who summoned her and narrowly escaping Lancer. It was then that she found Kazuki and made a pact with him to retain her form, despite him not being a mage. Meanwhile, Rin and Shiro arrive at Elias' castle right as Shinji and his new servant, Blondie, get there and cut down Elias' caretakers. This draws Elias and Berserker, who we now know to be Heracles, out to kill Blondie.
Episode 16. The battle between the mysterious 8th Servant and Berserker begins with a flurry of attacks from Blondie that take Berserker out almost immediately. We learn that each of the weapons he launches is a noble phantasm designed to kill heroes, and in that sense he is somewhat Berserker's opposite. Berserker resurrects naturally, and the two continue to fight as Ilya reflects on her life leading up to the war. We learn that she is half human and half homunculus, and was designed to be the Grail vessel for the current Grail War. We also learn that her mother was a Grail vessel who was betrayed by Kuritsugu, Ilya's father. Ilya endures pain and suffering every day for years in order to become the most powerful master. When she goes to pact with Berserker, the pain of doing so causes her to bleed profusely. She eventually learns that Berserker is more than a simple tool and that he genuinely cares for her and wants to protect her. She accepts him as her servant and surrogate guardian. Back to the present, we see that despite Blondie's coaxing, Berserker refuses to leave Ilya's side to fight him, not wanting her to get hurt. Blondie swiftly tears through all 12 of his lives and proceeds to maim and subsequently ruthlessly kill Ilya, only momentarily being startled by Berserker resurrecting a 13th time just as Ilya is about to be killed. It all proves pointless, though, as Blondie is massively overpowered and seems to have endless noble phantasms protecting him. The episode ends with Ilya thinking to herself that Berserker reminds her of Kuritsugu and that she wishes he would have picked her up in his arms one last time before her consciousness fades away. Side note, fuck the ending of this episode in particular. God damn it, it was entirely unnecessary and I hate it every time I have to rewatch it.
Yeah, that's the one that episode, it hurts every time
I have an absolutely unquenchable hatred for Gilgamesh because of that scene. He is irredeemable in my eyes because of that scene. I don't care.
It is so, the way he goes about killing her is so
unnecessary.
Horribly unnecessary and drawn out.
It's the worst.
And
it's the worst character death.
It's
the worst character death.
It's top 10 anime betrayals.
It's the worst character death that I think I've ever seen.
It is the single most painful scene of the series to watch, I think.
Blade Works?
Definitely of Blade Works.
Because I don't think it's the most painful.
I don't know
scene
if it's not the most painful of all of them, but it is the most painful scene.
I know exactly which one is the most painful.
It is the most painful scene in all of Unlimited Blade Works.
Yeah.
And probably the sole reason why my friend who said it was just too dark, it's probably the sole scene that caused him to just not be able to watch it. But, moving on. Episode 17. Blondie, who we learn to be Gilgamesh, removes Ilya's heart, finally putting an end to her once and for all. However, despite Shinji ordering him to kill Shiro and Rin, he refuses and simply says he has more important matters to attend to. After burying Ilya, Rin tries to drive into Shiro's head that his way of living is twisted beyond reason, and that he needs to live for himself instead of just living for others, or he'll never experience happiness, and the thought of that is just too unbearable for her. Shiro finally reveals in full that because he's basically suffering from extreme survivor's guilt from the last war, he's determined to prevent something like that from ever happening again. They soon are approached by Lancer, who offers his assistance in taking Castor's group. The plan is to have Lancer fight Archer and, if necessary, Saber, while Shiro and Rin take on Kuzuki and Castor. Meanwhile, Archer discusses motives with Kuzuki, learning that he's a man who never felt human, and his desire to grant Castor's wish is the first time he's displayed anything resembling human emotion. The episode ends with Lancer preparing to face off against Archer, and Rin mentioning to Shiro that the pendant he found in her room should be the only one that exists, despite Shiro having an identical one from the night he was saved.
Her first hint.
You could call it the first one.
I mean, it's the first...
It's the first one that, like, puts it in your face.
Yeah, it's the first obvious one.
She's like, hey, this... there's only one of. This one was given to me by somebody.
Yeah.
And you claim to have another one. Anyway, food for thought. Back to what we were doing.
Yeah,
like, right. It's such a weird kind of moment between the two of them.
Episode 18. The final showdown between Team Castor and Team Tosaka begins with Rin taking on Castor while Shiro keeps Kazuki distracted. Meanwhile, Lancer keeps Archer occupied out front, revealing that during their first encounter, he was forced to go easy on him by order of Command Seal. And now that order is no longer in effect. It's clear right away that Lancer is fighting on a whole new level, able to keep Archer on the defensive the whole time. However, Archer seems to have a plan of his own, goading Lancer into throwing his noble phantasm, allowing Archer to use a secret ability of his own to block most of the damage. When the dust settles, Archer reveals that his goal all along was to bide his time until Caster was no longer able to pay attention to him, and he surrenders. Elsewhere, Rin seems to be losing against Caster until she launches a surprise attack by going after her with hand-to-hand combat, catching Caster off guard. Just before she can deliver the final blow, Kazuki is able to step in and save Caster. Right as all seems lost for Team Tosaka, Archer arrives and kills Caster, uttering the same projection spell that Shiro uses. With Caster and her master dead, Archer turns his attention towards Shiro, stating that his only goal throughout this war was to kill him all along.
And now the pieces begin to fall into place. Episode 19. Saber, who Archer revealed to be King Arthur, tries to keep Shiro safe from Archer, but without a master, she lacks the mana to fight. Sensing she must do something, Rin pacts with Saber to become her new master and resupplying her with mana, allowing her to jump in and save Shiro at the last minute. Archer, now fed up with this, activates his noble phantasm, Unlimited Blade Works, a reality marble that manifests Archer's mental landscape into the physical world, allowing him to control an entire world full of replica noble phantasms that he can use at will. Shiro, realizing that this is the same magic he uses, steps in to save the others from Archer's attack, long enough for Archer to run low on mana. In a last-ditch effort to come out on top, Archer kidnaps Rin, and Shiro agrees to one final showdown between the two at the ruins of the Einsburn castle at dawn. Meanwhile, in Rin's dream, she finally pieces together all of Archer's backstory and realizes that he's none other than Shiro himself. After volunteering his afterlife to become a guardian in exchange for the strength to save more people, he became jaded and was repeatedly betrayed by those he had fought to save, and in the end was betrayed by even his ideals. Shiro questions him about this upon waking, but before he can answer, Shinji and Gilgamesh arrive. Archer says Shinji can do whatever he likes to Rin on the condition that he must wait until after Shiro has been killed. Otherwise, he'll kill both Shinji and Gilgamesh. Shinji agrees and Archer leaves to meet Shiro. Elsewhere, Shiro and Saber discuss the situation before setting out to finish things with Archer once and for all, being joined by Lancer, who offers his assistance in rescuing Rin.
Okay. Shiro and Saber confront Archer, who finally refers to himself as heroic spirit Emiya. He opens up about what the reality of his life as a hero of justice has been like, being forced to slaughter thousands of people throughout time in order to save the many. He says the only way to break the cycle is to kill himself before he ever made a deal with the counterforce to become a guardian. The two, being unable to see eye to eye, finally decide to skip the formalities and settle this dispute with one final fight to determine who is in the right. Meanwhile, Lancer tracks down Rin and saves her from being assaulted by Shinji. However, before he can set her free, his master Kirei approaches and admonishes him for disobeying orders. Rin hardly seems surprised that Kirei would be participating in the war despite being the overseer, and Kirei reveals that he has been plotting this ever since he betrayed and killed Rin's father in the previous war. He then orders Lancer to kill Rin so he can use her body to summon the Grail once Archer and Saber have been killed. Lancer refuses, and Kirei forces him via command seal to kill himself as punishment for disobeying orders.
Shit priest.
Horrible, horrible man.
Episode 21. As Archer and Shiro clash, Shiro realizes that he is consistently forming new magic circuits from his exposure to his future self, making him stronger the longer the fight goes on. However, whilst his body is getting stronger, his heart is being eroded away by the truth of his destiny. Sensing this, Archer summons Unlimited Blade Works one more time to drive home the futility of Shiro's struggle. It becomes clear that Archer is trying more to break Shiro's spirit as opposed to just killing him outright. As he gradually begins to accomplish this, Shiro starts experiencing Archer's memories of all his regrets. However, things take a turn when Shiro recalls the one thing Archer forgot, why he started down this path to begin with. Shiro's wish was always to undo the tragedy that gave rise to him. and to ensure that he would fulfill Kudetsugu's failed dream to save the world in his place. Realizing this, the tide appears to shift in Shiro's favor. Meanwhile, just as Kirei is about to kill Rin, Lancer reveals that he still has enough life left in him to kill Kirei and rescue Rin from Shinji. Finally, nearing his end, Lancer and Rin share a heartfelt talk about what it means to be true to what you believe in, and what it can cost. Rin thanks him for being true to what he believed in even up until the end, just as Lancer sets the building on fire to ensure Kirei would not be able to come back from this.
Episode 22. With Archer now on the defensive, Shiro's memories begin to take over, causing Archer to question his own motives. This accumulates in Archer recalling the night he promised Kudetsugu he would grant his wish in his place, starting him down the path he's on today, distracting him long enough for Shiro to land a blow. The battle ends with Shiro only just having drawn blood, but winning the battle of wills. Archer prepares to take his leave, but just then Gilgamesh attacks, killing Archer. Saber recognizes Gilgamesh, calling him Archer upon seeing him. He recounts their last meeting being at the close of the previous war, when she destroyed the Grail, and the resulting catastrophe granted him physical form and burned half the city. He then explains that the Grail War is a front for the true nature of the Grail, which is a vessel designed to store mana of the highest quality in the form of the souls of humanity's greatest heroes. Servants were always meant to be merely a power source for the Grail, being a near endless supply of mana to a mage, and were never to have their wishes granted. But Gilgamesh also reveals that the Grail is corrupted, and all wishes that enter it come out the other side as curses, perfectly tailored to killing humans. He intends to use the Grail to destroy humanity, ruling over whatever may survive. He leaves as the building proceeds to burn, and meets Shinji in the woods outside, using him as a living sacrifice to bring forth the Grail.
Yay, Shinji.
He gets what he deserves.
Not in the end, though.
Well,
we'll get
I think so.
Episode 23. Rin, Shiro, and Saber return to Shiro's house to discuss the strategy for taking down Gilgamesh and stopping the Grail. After a long debate on the subject, it becomes clear that Saber doesn't possess the right tools to hold her own against Gilgamesh, and Rin realizes the only servant whose abilities could stand up against Gilgamesh's armory is Archer. She then suggests the only way for them to stand a chance against Gilgamesh is for Shiro to be able to summon Archer's noble phantasm, meaning he'll need a lot more mana. She proposes a method of sharing mana between the two of them by implanting her family crest onto Shiro, thereby allowing him to draw on her mana supply to fight Gilgamesh. After the transplant process is complete, Shiro has a moment with Saber where she thanks him for helping her to accept her past mistakes and move on from them. She then makes him promise to return home with Rin after the battle, knowing she will likely not survive to see it. The episode ends with Gilgamesh initiating the final stage of the process to summon the cursed Grail.
You forgot about Rin and Shiro's dumb moment after the magic
I didn't forget about it.
transplant.
I just... How do you write that? How do you summarize like that? Rin and Shiro have a stupid moment.
Rin and Shiro... Rin shows her full tsundere capabilities.
Rin unlocks ultimate tsundere.
Yeah. Rin releases her noble phantasm, ultimate tsundere.
Full blush.
Yeah. Revealing that she has had a crush on Shiro since middle school.
Basically.
Episode 24.
Yay.
Ow. Stop that. Episode 24. Rin and Shiro arrive at Ryudo Temple in search of the Grail, but upon seeing it, they realize that Gilgamesh is not fighting Saber at the front gate, as they had planned. He greets them and offers them the chance to bear witness to the end of mankind, so Shinji won't be alone in the end, but Rin takes this as an opportunity to deactivate the Grail, which Gilgamesh takes as a personal slight. Shiro leads Gilgamesh away as Rin seeks out Shinji in an effort to pull him from the Grail vessel and stop it before it can fully activate. However, as soon as she does, the vessel seeks out a replacement core, reaching out to Gilgamesh. To defend himself, Gilgamesh pulls out his true noble phantasm, the Sword of Rupture, Ea, and simply being in the vicinity when it is activated is enough to knock Shiro unconscious. Meanwhile, Saber discovers that Assassin is still guarding the front gate, awaiting her arrival to honor her promise to finish their fight. They clash for a few minutes until Saber is distracted by Ea being activated, allowing Assassin to force Saber into a position that leaves her vulnerable to his noble phantasm. However, she accepts this challenge and is able to dodge his attack and slay him, ending their fight.
Episode 25. Saber arrives to help Rin destroy the Grail, but complications arise when the Grail captures Rin and Shinji, trapping them inside. Rin, desperate to destroy the Grail no matter what, tries to force Saber to destroy it with her still inside, but at the last moment, Archer returns to open a hole for her and Shinji to escape through, allowing Saber to safely vaporize the Grail, officially ending it. Meanwhile, Shiro and Gilgamesh take their battle into Unlimited Blade Works, as Shiro reveals the truth behind his magecraft and vows to surpass Gilgamesh, fake or not. Gilgamesh is pushed back, finally beginning to realize his mistake in underestimating Shiro, but he's too late, as just before he can activate Ea, Shiro lands a mortal blow right as he runs out of mana to sustain the Reality Marble. Gilgamesh congratulates Shiro on his victory as he prepares to kill him before dying. But before he can, the Grail reappears and attempts to absorb Gilgamesh, who takes hold of Shiro to save himself. Before he can, though, Archer delivers an arrow straight through Gilgamesh's forehead, ending him once and for all.
It's not an arrow. It's a katana.
It's a Tonto knife, yes, I get that. But for the sake of argument, it's an arrow. He shoots it out of his bow. Shut up.
Yeah, that's why it's funny. He shoots a frickin' Tonto out of his bow.
I mean, like, wouldn't you if you could? Alright. He's just living our best dreams, okay? He's just living his best life. God, he loves swords.
Just loves swords.
Just fucking swords. Shit. So I'm just trying to resist the urge to just rattle off every fucking meme I can think of right now as related to that. Before he can, though, Archer delivers an arrow straight through Gilgamesh's forehead, ending him once and for all. The episode ends with Rin having the chance to offer one final farewell to Archer, as he asks her to look after him and promises to do his best from then on.
Okay.
So close.
Epilogue,
yay.
Episode 26. 2 years later, and now living in England, Shiro recalls the events following the end of the war, including becoming Rin's pupil and agreeing to study magecraft under her at the Mages Association headquarters, the Clock Tower, in London. Now he considers joining the association, but after visiting King Arthur's grave, he decides that it is not the path for him, as he knows no matter what he does, he can't change who he is or what he'll become. Rin says that she believes that one day he'll get his proper ending and that Archer just hadn't reached his yet, but she'll stay by his side until he finds his answer. The series ends with a narration from our Shiro, now as the heroic spirit Emiya, as he recalls his fateful battle with himself so many lifetimes ago. He reveals that he couldn't change anything, he has regrets, and he often curses himself for not turning back when he had the chance, but he also says that despite it all, he knows it was not wrong.
And that is the official ending to Unlimited Blade Works.
Yes.
However, we have been graced with a gift from the Ufotable gods.
From Nasu's gracious hands
from
himself.
Nasu himself, our Lord and Savior, has reached out and hand-delivered the canon ending to Unlimited Blade Works. The only acceptable ending. Part of the reason that this description is so long, despite only being 10 minutes, is because most people don't even know this ending exists.
Yeah, okay.
So, OVA, Sunny Day. Shiro awakens in his home after his battle with Gilgamesh, not remembering anything following Gilgamesh's death. He searches the house before realizing that Rin has gone home and Saber is no longer around. However, he sees Saber meditating in the dojo, and she seems unsurprised to see him. Rin then appears and explains that she extended her pact with Saber to have her act as Rin's familiar. She then tells Shiro that she'll need his help to maintain Saber's form, given her high mana expenditure. After Shiro agrees, Rin boldly claims that now both Saber and Shiro belong to her, and she won't let them go, making plans to have Shiro learn combat from Saber and magecraft from her to become a proper mage. The episode ends with Rin taking Shiro's hand and Shiro extending his other to Saber, as the three of them endeavor to live the rest of their lives together.
Shiro has two hands.
It's so cute, and I'm dying.
I know.
And
DM me on Twitter if you want this.
I love
for legal
this.
reasons, that's a joke.
I love this. I don't know where you can watch this officially. I've always only ever found it on YouTube.
Yeah. It was probably some sort of like DVD box set special.
It probably was. Actually, I don't know because I think the Unlimited Blade Works American Blu-ray release only just dropped earlier this year, which is bizarre. But
I'm pretty sure things that drop in Japan still get English subtitles.
Yeah, and it's also possible that it was like fan subbed.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, that's the canon ending.
For
also,
legal
like
for legal reasons, it's a joke.
Oh my god.
But DM me on Twitter.
Oh my god. But I mean, honestly, like, just like first of all, like, hell yeah for some poly rep.
Yeah, right.
Hell yeah for some polyamorous representation. Like, that's good shit right there.
I love that Saber just like takes up the mantle of mom. In that moment, I will protect you two until the end of time.
Oh my god, she's the best. And she's so cute when they're on their date.
Yeah.
She's not like a bodyguard. She does more shit with Rin than fucking Shiro does. It's hilarious. I love them. They are the cutest couple ever.
Stupid.
And I will stand by this. I will die by this.
I'll die on this hill.
I will die on this hill.
Oh my god. How do we even like get into like the analysis of this now?
I was gonna ask where you wanted to start.
I don't know.
Okay, well, let's start with what we know.
Okay.
The arc of the series is Shiro becoming Archer. And Archer trying to stop that from happening.
Yeah.
What... Is Archer a villain? He's an antagonist.
I think by any technical definition of the word, you could say that he is, but he's not Kirei.
No.
You know what I mean?
Kirei, Gilgamesh, Shinji, they're villains.
Yeah. But...
And even Shinji, maybe not so much. Shinji's just an asshole.
No, Shinji's a villain.
He does villainous things, but he's not a villain. He's
not
smart enough to be a villain.
He's not a successful villain.
He's like Team Rocket of villains. Like, Shinji blasting off again. Like, fucking god. Yeah, I mean, what is Archer? It's interesting the way he's even treated by the other characters in the show. He's not treated like a regular servant, and he's not treated like a normal man. He's treated almost as like this force of nature, like this inevitable creation that can't be stopped, in a sense. You know, no matter what any other character does, he can't be stopped. He cannot be killed. He cannot be beaten.
Yeah.
Even at the moments where you think you've beaten him, it turns out that was his plan from the beginning, and he's playing chess when everyone else is playing checkers.
Yeah. It is hard to, like, put him into any sort of category.
He defies categorization, really.
Yeah.
The only category you could say is antagonist.
Yeah.
But that's just somebody who opposes the protagonist. That's all that is.
Yeah.
You know, Archer's...
It's almost like everybody can sense from the beginning that he's different.
Yeah. 100%. You know, everyone who meets him is like, wait.
Even though, like, there's nothing other than him pointing towards that until he says it. Yeah.
He even tries to just be like, oh, I'm just a bowman. And Lancer's like, fuck you. You bullshitter. You're not. What are you? What are you? It's... Archer's greatest weapon. It's not his swords. It's not his bow. It's not Kaladabog. It's not Roias. It's not Unlimited Blade Works. It's the fact that he's the smartest person in the room, no matter what room he's standing in.
Yeah.
And no matter who else is standing in the room with him.
I mean, he also, like, that's the other thing, too, is, like, most of the other servants, they don't seem to, like, fully remember every other situation they've been summoned into. They remember bits and pieces, enough to have a general idea of what happened to them. But not, like, Archer seems to remember everything.
Well,
from every single time he's been summoned into history.
Well, here's the thing. Is...
I don't know if that's because he's a counter-guardian.
Well, no, not quite, first of all. Second of all, because he says himself, you know, he's like, there's a lot that I've forgotten.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and...
Maybe it's just the pure fact that he's been summoned so many more times by nature of being a counter-guardian.
I also think, too, because he's, you know, he's got a selection bias, you know, he remembers the traumatizing things.
Yeah.
He remembers all the times where he couldn't save people. Yeah. He remembers all the times where he was forced to take a life, because those are the things that weigh on him.
Yeah.
He can't... He says, you know, I'm a man who possesses no pride. You know, he gave up on being able to accomplish his goal, so he never remembered any instances where, I mean, you see, when he and Shiro are having those competing flashbacks, you know, you see moments where he's in a village of, you know, of children, and he's, you know, handing out canteens of water and things like that. Like, you see these moments where he's protecting people, where he's doing the right thing. Additionally, there are only 2 servants who we have any idea about whether they remember their past summons. Archer, because he talks about it, and Saber.
Lancer, too. Lancer mentions that he likes being summoned by certain kinds of people. He wishes he had been summoned by Rin.
Yeah.
He says he never has any luck with female masters. He
said that he never had any luck with women. And that could be, based on the legend of Cuchulainn, he could be making reference to the many women that he had bad interactions with in his life.
No, I know that. I know all about that. No, I mean...
yeah, I know, fuck. Like...
No, I'm almost positive that he specifically says masters. In at least 1 or 2 of those situations. He specifically mentions, like, female masters.
Well...
when talking to Rin, because he so desperately wishes that she had summoned him.
I don't remember him saying that exactly, but even if he had, the thing is like, we've never seen any of the other characters, of the other servants before. We haven't seen them in, you know, any of the other Fate spin-offs. So it's hard.
Medea is
we've seen
the games.
Well, yeah. I mean, like,
not Grand Order. I'm not talking about Grand Order.
And isn't Lancer's in Extra as well? Sort of.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because he's Rin's. He is summoned by Rin in Extra.
Yeah.
But anyway, so it's hard to. But Extra is an entirely different timeline. It has nothing to do with it.
No, I know.
So it's hard to know.
But
really...
even still, he exists. The Throne of Heroes exists outside of time.
Yeah.
So he would still be the same Lancer. That would be summoned by that Rin.
Theoretically.
According to fate logic.
Theoretically, but I mean, I guess. But also the extra universe. This is getting so far in the weeds.
Meta.
The extra universe, I think, is entirely different than the main. There's no Grail Wars or anything in it.
No, I know.
And I don't think that existing outside of time means that you exist within a parallel universe. That your consciousness in the Throne of Heroes can transcend. Because
what else is an alternate timeline, but an alternate universe where events went slightly differently?
Yeah, but Archer doesn't recall any alternate timelines. He just recalls his history being summoned. If he recalled his other timelines, like, there are other timelines. where things play out different. Archer would remember that. I don't know. It's hard to say because we have no confirmation for any of the other servants. We only really have the one that we've seen in other in that straight up says, "Oh, I've been summoned here before," and the one who says, "Here, look at all my memories," you know. So it does probably have something to do with, you know, Archer as a counter guardian. He is going to be summoned way more.
Yeah.
Because he's, you know, the Grail War. This is only the 5th Grail War.
Yeah.
What other circumstances, you know, are heroes from the Throne of Heroes being summoned? Yeah. You know, you have to kind of wonder that. It's one of those things in Fate lore that, like, it really gets me thinking, and ultimately there's no satisfactory answer. I've not been in any of the lore I've been able to look at. I've not been able to find anything. So, you know, but yeah, I mean, you're definitely right, you know, that there's this air about Archer that he's fundamentally different. And there's, from minute one, there's something off about him.
Yeah.
You know, every servant tries to pin him down. Every servant tries to figure out what and who he is. And not one of them can. There's only one that seems to acknowledge how dangerous he is, how dangerous he actually is, and that's Gilgamesh. But despite acknowledging how dangerous he is, he continues to underestimate him.
Yeah.
He's the only one that's like, yeah, this dude's fucking dangerous, so I need to kill him first. But even in so doing, he's still like, nah, you're not that big a threat to me, and then fucking dies. Like,
well, yeah, because Gilgamesh's biggest weakness is his fucking ego.
His ego, yeah. He can't get out of his own way. But, I mean, there's no doubt that Archer is the most interesting character in it. I mean, and by proxy, Shiro as well. You know, you have these moments where you have to kind of wonder. The way the ending happens, they allude to the idea that Shiro may wind up on a different path. And it's not until the post-credit that you kind of get confirmed, maybe, depending on who specifically is narrating, but you don't know. You assume it to be Shiro, because Shiro is the one who's been narrating every other time there's been narration.
Yeah.
Shiro's monologue at the start of the epilogue, at the beginning of the epilogue, where he says, "It's been 2 years since then. I think back, blah, 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 blah." That's a narration.
Yeah.
You know, he's not... You don't see him at a table, you know, writing that down, or you don't see him at a table, you know, sitting there scratching his chin thinking. It's happening while other things are happening on screen. It's non-diegetic. So that's the way the narration is presented in the post-credits of the epilogue as well. You know, it's non-diegetic. You see Archer kind of going about his things that he's doing and saying, "Oh, you know, my feet started down this path and it could not be changed, blah, 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 blah." But it's so hard to know, and I see people arguing about this constantly, whether Shiro at the end of Blade Works ever actually did become Archer. Because a lot of people say, no, he doesn't. Rin is able to divert him enough from that path. His ability to grow up with Rin and father children with her pushes him away from that path. And he never makes the deal with the counterforce and blah, 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 blah.
I mean, I think we can all pretty solidly agree that if we go by the Sunny Day ending, he absolutely does not become Archer.
Yes, the Sunny Day ending, he does not become Archer. Which is why it's the canon ending. I don't know why. What? Fuck you. It's canon. It's my canon. I mean, what jumping away from Archer for a minute.
Sure.
What other characters like really stand out to you in it, and why? And what other events, what other scenes, what other things?
I mean, something that you didn't really touch upon much in your notes is that Medea's true wish is not to go home. It's to be a good wife. It's to be a wife. It's to have a family. Someone who loves her. To love somebody.
At no point is that stated in Blade Works, though. That's the thing. So here's the thing. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. But her wish, as it's stated every time she talks about it, her wish is, oh, I wish to go home, I wish to go home, I wish to go home. Kazuki, when discussing with Archer about Medea's wish, Archer's like, oh, she wishes to set herself free. And he says something along the lines of, her wish is it's not a wish. It's the natural human desire that, all humans aspire. She simply wishes to return home. She simply wishes to, it's not freedom she wants. She wants to return home. And it's not until she's dying and she jumps in the way of Archer's swords to protect Kazuki. And he says, oh, I'll grant your wish in your place. And she says it's impossible. I've only now realized that my wish was being granted up until this moment. Essentially, her wish was to spend more time with Kazuki, somebody who respected her, somebody who didn't judge her, who didn't mistreat her, who didn't abuse her or use her.
Right.
And though that winds up being her wish in the end, her wish for the Grail was to go home. It was always to go home. But it was just right in the moment of her death that she realized that really wasn't what she truly desired. And I think there's a distinction between those things that's important. Like Shiro's dream, to become a hero of justice. Yeah. Versus at the end of his life as Archer, when he realizes that's not what he ever wanted.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Medea is certainly an interesting character. A lot of them are.
I love Medea.
Yeah. It's a shame that we didn't get to see much of Ryder in this timeline. But I know I'll be talking about her a lot when I do Heaven's Feel.
Yeah. Yeah, she plays a big role in that.
Yes, indeed.
Much cooler.
Who else really sticks out to you? I like Elias.
I mean, Kukulane, of course.
Well, yeah.
I mean, he's literally my favorite character from any anime ever. Still.
Yeah.
He's just a good boy. He's just good. Good through and through. Like, he tries to live heroically. He tries to live by his morals, which are pretty solid.
Yeah. How do you interpret, how do you interpret his choices to spare Archer at the end of the church fight and things like that? Like, how do you... There are things about his actions that don't make... There are things about a lot of the characters' actions that there are these moments where it's like, I don't fully understand why you allowed that to happen.
Well, I think... I don't know specifically about that one, but I think the way Lancer ends up reading into Archer is that despite being a basically timeless, ageless death machine at this point, he still hasn't figured it out.
Did Lancer know he was Shiro by the end? I mean,
I don't know.
by the very end, he did because he went with them.
Yeah, I don't know.
I
But
don't think he knew who he was at the church.
I don't think he knew who he was, but I think he knew what he was. I think he has a pretty good sense of intuition and figured out maybe not the whole story, but at least enough to know that he he hadn't figured it out yet.
Mm.
Archer didn't have it figured out. He was set down a path that was not going to help anything under this delusion that it was the only answer. And I think he was trying to give Archer time to realize that rather than just killing him and defeating him in more than one way. You know what I mean?
Do you think that if Lancer had tried to ignore Archer's surrender at the end of the battle, do you think Archer would have been able to fight back? Like, it felt Archer was pulling punches in that fight because he was after his own goal. He was trying to get Castor to stop observing him. Do you think that he was pulling punches? I mean, he was on the back foot the whole time. Like, I'm not saying, like, I think in a straight battle between the two, I think Lancer would probably come out on top. But at the same time, it felt like he wasn't, like, he didn't summon his noble phantasm. He didn't sword spam. You know, he didn't do any of the things that you'd think someone who's genuinely fighting for the life would do.
Well,
and I suspect that had Lancer tried to ignore Archer's surrender at the end, when he revealed what his true intention with that fight was, I think Lancer suspected that might result in his undoing. That trying to basically Archer was backed into a corner and trying to continue to go after him in that situation would yield no good result. You know, maybe he could have killed him, but I think he realizes that, like, he set out for one goal and one goal only, and that was to protect Rin. That was what he was ordered to do. And I think he thought killing Archer would not serve that goal.
Yeah.
Likewise, why do you suppose Archer spared Medea? Do you think he was the story he tells Shiro is, well, she's the master of escaping. Yeah, she would have escaped. Even if I'd slain her, she would have escaped. Do you suppose that's true?
I don't know. I mean, he had her bleeding out on the ground. I don't know how. She
wasn't in good shape.
No.
When he finally landed Kuala
I think he could have taken her out there. I definitely do. I mean, even given her ability to, like, duplicate and... It seems like she could duplicate herself and then decide which duplicate was the real one.
It's hard to say whether it's that or whether it's she can create a projection of herself that... like whether she has to have her original somewhere and her projection can do other stuff and get slain and not have any consequence. It's hard to...
Well, because it seemed like she was...
When he first, like, decapitated her?
I don't remember the specifics of it. I just remember that at one point they're fighting, like, full on fighting.
Yeah.
And then he lands some sort of hit on her, and then that turns out to not be her, but it had been her up to some point there. It had to have been.
The only time I remember him landing a hit on her and her revealing that it wasn't her was right at the start, when he's kind of like, oh, if you survive one blow, then I'll let you go. But she said like, oh, you can't land so much as a single blow on me in this place. And he said, all right, one blow then. If you survive, I'll let you go. If you don't, if you fall, then that's on you. And like, you blink and you miss it. He winds up just going and basically, like, just slicing her. And then...
That's probably the one I'm thinking of.
Yeah, and then she, like, collapses, and then she, like, evaporates into the pink butterflies, and it winds up being above him. So, yeah, it is hard to say, like, was that... Because it seems like it was her, because she was trying to steal the command seals and stuff like that. Or was it, like, at some point in the fight, did she project somewhere else? Because he had commented on, like, spatial projection, time manipulation, things like that, like, within her confines, within her sanctum, so to speak. The phrase he used, she was able to mimic true magic.
I don't think she was mimicking it.
Yeah.
I think she was using it.
Yeah.
Because her legend states that she has ties to the true root.
Yeah. Yes, that is true. That is true.
She actually has ties to real, true, unfiltered magic. Hence her endless mana supplies.
Yeah. One of the things I find most fascinating about this is, like, when you go to rewatch it, and you start to see Archer, you start to see him put pieces in place to get done what he wants to get done. Every time, Rin keeps putting obstacles in his way, right? The first is the command seal to follow her orders. And he's like, well, fuck, this carries a real strong compulsion for me, so, like, well, this makes it difficult, but not impossible. Then is the command seal to he's not allowed to hurt Shiro so long as their alliance stands. Well, shit, that puts a chink in his plan. Well, then he just needs her to get to say that the alliance is off, and that will free him up from the command spell. Well, she won't do that. She won't do it, and she won't do it, and she won't do it, and she won't do it. So he thinks, all right, once Castor's defeated, their alliance is over. Then I can do what I want to do. And she says, oh, as soon as we defeat Castor, you saw the moment where his attitude changed. As soon as we defeat Castor, we can bring Saber back for Shiro to pact with her again. And you saw, like, I never, for whatever reason, I never noticed it before this watch. This is probably my, like, 30th time watching this straight through. But you saw this moment of, he's walking and he just pauses. And it just, like, his expression goes from kind of, like, just, like, kind of chill and upbeat to just dead. And it was in that moment you can tell that he formulated his plan to basically betray Ren. You know, the whole reason he needed Castor to use Rule Breaker on him was because Rule Breaker was the only thing that could cancel the command spell. And it wasn't something he wanted to do because he cares for Ren.
Yeah.
Just like he cares for Ilya. But he can't let on that he does, because that will reveal who the fuck he is, and that's his whole goal, is to not have everybody know.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting to watch this back and forth of, this is what I was talking about. He's pushing towards his goal. From minute one, he's pushing toward his goal. But he also won't let anyone else kill Shiro. He wants Shiro to walk away, to not want to be a hero. And when he sees him not doing it organically, he says, well, I'm going to have to kill you myself. It does raise a little bit of a question as to why he didn't just let one of the other servants kill him. Like, it would have been so fucking easy.
Yeah.
To just let Medea steal his command spells and kill him or whatever. Like, it wouldn't have caused him any trouble.
Yeah.
But the fact that he chose not to, it really does seem like he's dealing with this inner conflict this entire time. And I think that's one of the things that is most fascinating about his character.
Mm.
You know, he clearly is driving towards this one goal, but it has to happen in a really specific way, or he doesn't want it. Is there anything, like, I mean, I've been talking this whole time, you know, but I know that you're just as passionate. Well, maybe not quite.
No, not just as passionate. I like the show a lot.
Very passionate about Blade Works. You specifically requested to do this episode with me. You know, what is it that, you know, before we end this episode, what is it that you want to be able to say about it, about this series?
It's not quite that. It's just a couple of other, like, little things that don't end up meaning much in the end. They're not, like, huge plot points. They're not, like, huge character moments or anything like that. But it's, like, little things here and there that are sprinkled in that just kind of are fun.
Mm-hmm.
Specifically, like, I can't remember if it's quite close to the beginning. All of Shiro and Rin's interactions with the track team.
Oh yeah.
Those three are so. They're. First of all, I'm sorry you can't convince me. They're all gay. All three of them are gay. At
the very least,
That the short hair girl.
Yeah, the head of the track and field club.
They're all so dumb, and just I don't know what their energy is, but I love it. It's very good.
Useless lesbian energy.
I mean, yes, but like it just they're just so funny. All three of them.
And even that, like, you know, like we were saying, like, you know, the characters, they're written like real people. And you have this moment of, like, this girl desperately, Rin, do you want to get lunch with me? And she's like, oh,
Can we eat lunch?
Yeah, I gotta go to the cafeteria. I forgot my lunch. I overslept. Oh, I didn't know you could oversleep. I'm so sorry. Don't let me keep you. And then the other guy's like, don't even bother. That fucking bitch. I invited her out to eat. You know what? She didn't pay attention to me for shit. Like, blah, 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 blah. It's just like, good freaking grief, man.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, of course, there's Mitsuzuri. Who is just... She's so feisty. I love her. She's so good. It's the side characters, any of them that get any sort of, like, not even substantial screen time, but, like, lines here and there, they're all just funny.
Right.
They're just very good.
I mean, yeah, you're 100% accurate about that, because it's like they spared no energy in making characters that would be enjoyable to watch, and they succeeded. You know, it's like these are all fun, interesting, enjoyable, relatable characters, and it's just great. It's so well written. It's such an amazing character drama. As far as, like, elements from, like, the main plot, things like that, things that stand out to you. I mean, I know that we said in this review, we're trying not to get too into the nitty-gritty emotions of why it resonates with us and things like that. Like, I know we're trying to avoid that just for brevity's sake.
Yeah.
But...
And the meta and all of that.
Yeah.
Although we got into the meta a little bit anyway.
A little bit,
but you can't help it.
Yeah, no, you cannot.
So
I'm not going to
it.
be capable of doing a review of anything from the Fate franchise without getting personally invested because of how much it means to me. And this being the one that means the most to me.
Yeah.
I'm amazed that I've been as on topic as I have, and I haven't been. So that's impressive. So, as far as elements of the main plot, as far as things that speak to you specifically, resonate with you specifically, I know Rin is a character that,
Yeah.
you know, very much like I relate to Shiro, you see yourself a lot in Rin.
Yeah. I mean, it's mostly just in her interactions with her peers.
Yeah.
It's... And even that, like, if you actually look at it, it's not quite as parallel as I seem to feel it is. I was not nearly as popular as she was.
No.
Everybody knows Tosaka.
Yeah.
In school.
Which is bizarre. Everybody knows her, but she has no friends.
Yeah. And I was, like, kind of the other way around. I had a lot of really good friends, but, like, anybody outside of my friend circle didn't know who the fuck I was.
Yeah.
Which is pretty normal, as far as that goes.
Yeah, and I suppose that, you know, if I'm talking about, you know, comparing myself to Shiro, like, in the same vein, like, I was not, you know, like, Shiro's useful to the people around him.
Yeah.
In high school, I was not.
But the way she handles social interaction is me.
Yeah.
That's me.
Yeah.
I don't know how to people at all. Really?
Rin really has a hard time dealing with things that hit too close to home with her. You know, her crush on Shiro, anything related with her dad.
Yeah.
You know, even her connection to Magecraft.
Yeah.
I will say, because I think this is relevant to the review. When I sat to rewatch it, I mean, first of all, because of the amount of notes I was taking, I was averaging about one episode per hour.
Yeah.
Which means that I was spending 20 minutes of that hour watching the episode, and the other 40 minutes of that hour writing notes. I need a better system.
Yes.
But the show is fucking dense. It's dense.
Yeah.
So much happens.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of episodes
Yeah.
where a lot happens.
Yeah. We didn't even look at your remaining...
My bullets?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean...
notes. Like, those were...
Feel free to just scroll through. There's interesting stuff in there.
I'm sure there is. But I know in previous reviews, we've kind of gone, like, episode by episode after the summaries and been like, what happened here? What happened here?
Yeah.
There's
too
much.
Goddamn much. And
There's
that's
too much.
why there's going to be so...
It's an inefficient...
There are going to be so many.
Any system we use for this show is going to be inefficient.
And
because
that's why
there's no efficient way to succinctly sum up and then subsequently review this show.
I really did consider doing season 1 and season 2 separate. Maybe I should have.
Maybe we should have.
But I'm out of time.
Anyway.
As it is, I have to release this episode. Next week, I have to release 0. The week after, I have to release Heaven's Field 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Which I'm going to have to review together, even though I didn't want to.
Yeah.
And the week after that, we're doing Heaven's Field 3.
Yeah.
I have 4 straight weeks of 4 dense as fuck shows that mean a lot to me. And I'm very worried about the quality of them.
Luckily, Heaven's Field 3, the full review is not...
The full review is still probably a year away.
Yeah, a year away. Cause
you know, give or take.
Blu-ray.
Because I've got to wait for it to come out on Blu-ray so I can watch it, take notes, pause, take notes, pause. You know, I'm going to need to analyze probably based on the density of what I can expect from that movie. I'm probably going to be pausing and having to go frame by fucking frame.
It's going to take you at least 4 hours.
To watch that 2-hour movie, yeah.
At least.
Minimum. So, you know, it's... There's so much to get into.
The review of the show, it's great. Watch it.
Yeah, that's the review. The review is it's phenomenal. You should watch it.
It's my at least my third favorite, if not my second favorite. I haven't. My top three are all equal to me.
It's my favorite. It is my favorite.
It's Unlimited Blade Works. Rascal Does Not Dream of Bunny Girl Senpai, and My Hero Academia. Those are my top three.
I'm so excited to review Rascal.
Those are my top three.
Shit.
You cannot do it with anybody else. Sorry, no, me. That's it. No question.
And the movie too.
If you.
We'll talk about it. We'll talk about that.
Well, who would you want to do the movie with?
I don't know.
Eric?
I don't know. I don't know if Eric's seen either of them yet. I don't know. Jimmy might have seen Rascal.
He did.
Yeah. Whatever. We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. Anyway.
No, the show was us because arguably those two main characters are even closer of a fit to the two of us.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, you're not allowed to review it with anybody else.
Bitch. Yeah. But what the fuck was I saying? Right, jumping back to what I was saying. God, you're so distracted. What's wrong with you? Why would you do this to me? When I watched this series a lot, and when I sat to watch it this time, and when I was taking my notes, I was paying a little bit extra attention, obviously, trying to pick up on little things that maybe I wouldn't have noticed in my other 29 times watching it. And one episode that really bothered me. It bothered me. It bothered me so badly that I had to stop the episode, mid-episode, and walk away and call a friend in the middle of the night because it was just digging at me the way that the interaction went. And it could be an entirely personal thing. As I said, I relate to Shiro in a way that's probably not healthy. And it's pointed out in the show that it's not healthy the way he does it. It's been pointed out to me in real life that it's not healthy the way I do it. But the episode that really had me just upset was when it was the episode before the season 1 finale. So it was episode 12. And it was the scene where Shiro and Rin are sitting out on his patio talking about their histories, like with magecraft. Like Rin talking about, oh, my father raised me to be the heir of the Tosca magics, and I'm supposed to be a mage, and I'm a hedonist at heart. I wouldn't do it if I didn't find it fun. School's not a waste of time because I find it fun. It's a pit stop for me, but it's something that fulfills me, blah, blah, blah. And then when she turns around and she looks to him and is like, well, what about you? You've been having fun too, right? And he just says nothing. And she gets suddenly real embarrassed and real upset and is like, I need you to fucking answer me right now. And he's like, he tells her the truth. And it's the first time he really kind of opens up to her about the truth about what he is. When he's like, I don't think that I find it fun. I just do it because I thought I might be useful to somebody. I don't do this because of this. I do it because it made the people around me happy.
Yeah.
I don't do this because of this, and he just basically reveals that he has no passions that he can really call his own. Even his ideal, the thing he lives and dies by and devotes his entire afterlife to, was never his ideal to begin with.
Yeah.
It was borrowed from Kiritsugu.
Yeah.
And that episode, that scene, where she just can't get through to him.
Mm-hmm.
Because he just is like, well, I don't feel like I deserve anything. I want to be a utility to others because I feel like that's what I have to be. Is so... It just dug into me in a way that I hadn't really thought it would, given how many times I've seen it.
Yeah.
And, I mean, even now, I'm still just like, when I think of the ramifications of it, when I think of the meaning behind his words, and the way the two of them interacted, and the differences in their outlooks on the world, if you think about it, they're almost opposites.
Yeah.
You know, a hedonist versus an altruist. It's like, it the series raises a lot of very interesting, deep philosophical questions. This being one of them. You know, what's the proper way to live? You know, is it to live for yourself? Is it to live for others? Is it to find some blend of the two? And everyone around Shiro tells him his way of life is wrong. You know, but for me, as somebody who's also a selfish altruist who I can't picture living my life for myself. And everybody who points out and is like, oh, Shiro's written unrealistically, nobody's really like that, they clearly can't picture living their life for others.
Yeah.
And it's a philosophical question with no answer. The answer is, it says, you decide.
Yeah.
And I think that that's one of the things, to this day, that's one of the things that's always resonated with me about the Fate franchise, is it poses these questions, and it basically says, well, here are the logical extreme conclusions of those things. We're not going to say whether this is good or bad. We're not going to say whether this person's a hero or a villain. We're just going to present them in their logical extreme.
Yeah.
Or one possible logical extreme. And then you decide. Is Archer, this drives back to my original question I asked you, is Archer a villain? I don't know.
No.
I don't know. But it's interesting to think about.
I mean, is Rin? She's living her life entirely for herself.
Yeah.
She's using people as stepping stones.
Yeah. And
people, places, things, it doesn't matter to her. As long as she's happy, that's
the thing,
all
is
she cares about.
It seems to present her way of life as being okay.
I mean, she's not
so
theoretically
weird.
Hurting anybody. She's not going out of her way to hurt people.
But
that's the thing.
Yeah.
It's like, she's not presented as a bad person because her intentions are not malicious.
Yeah.
They're just apathetic.
They're just hedonistic.
Yeah.
You know, and you know what's interesting too, though, is like her life. It's very strongly implied that her life really doesn't gain meaning until she finds Shiro and connects with him and is like, I'm going to devote the rest of my life to giving your life meaning.
Yeah.
And
the fact that you've never been happy is literally the saddest thing I've ever heard in my life, and I'm going to fix it.
But it's interesting because it also presents the solutions to each of their problems as each other.
Yeah.
And so the ultimate answer seems to be, you need both.
Yeah.
You need to look after yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But if you can, should look out for others.
Yeah.
And I think that in the epilogue, the canonical to the series epilogue, I guess, you see that, and
the epilogue that's presented on Netflix.
Anyway, you see that, and you know, you have to kind of take that as it is. But it's interesting too when you look at the Sunny Day ending. I mean, let's look at that for a second. Because what does that present us with? I think I know.
That presents us with a happy couple and their guard dog, who's also a third member of the couple.
That presents us with the ultimate truth of the universe, that polyamory is the superior. Really, I'm gonna get fucking flack for that. I'm gonna get flack for that. No. But no, it really is an interesting philosophical debate about, you know, the right and wrong way to live, and, you know, who's doing things correctly, quote unquote, and who's doing it wrong.
It makes me wonder a little bit. This is getting a little meta, and I'm really sorry. My gay brain engaged. In this theoretical, this fictional canonical Artoria Pendragon, wasn't Arthur Pendragon was in love with Guinevere, right? Was Artoria in love with Guinevere? Because I think she was.
This is getting... Well, hang on. This is getting into the kind of stuff that we should be discussing in an extra, because this is getting into lore that has nothing to do with Blade Works. But if I had to give an answer based on everything I understand about it, Artoria was with Guinevere because a king needed a queen. That's why. It wasn't love, it wasn't any of that. And when I do the review of Zero, once that review's done, we can come back to this question and we can discuss, because you know why. We can come back to this question and we can discuss it, because...
Well, after Zero or after Apocrypha?
Well, both. But Zero mostly because there's a third and fourth elements to that dynamic, that one of which appears in Zero. The other appears in Apocrypha. And those third and fourth elements...
What of those two?
I don't want to talk about what you were starting to ask. Because it's not important right now. We're getting too in the weeds. No. Back to the main topic.
No, I want to talk about the angry ones.
We will do this
later. The angry ones.
Later. Talk about Rin. She's the angry one.
She is angry.
She's angry.
She's not nearly as angry as one of the other angry ones, though.
Is her anger righteous?
Probably not.
Probably not.
Probably not. I mean, it stems from a righteous place, but in the end, no.
Can I say one of the scenes that was really cute to me?
Her anger at one particular person is justified and righteous. Her anger at Kirei is justified and righteous. And Gil. But...
Can I say one scene that was really cute?
Go ahead. Tell me this thing.
Tell me this thing. Do you remember the scene where Archer is, Rin's trying to basically guess at Archer's identity, and she's like, he's giving her crap while she's getting ready in the bathroom.
Okay.
And he's like, oh, she's like, oh, would you believe women's intuition? And he's like, oh, could you really even call yourself a woman? And you lack any of the refinement of a woman. And, not to mention your appeal is hard to see. And, like, all this thing that we know is bullshit because he's Shiro. And she comes out and she's kind of, like, toying with him a little bit of, like, oh, like, I have damning evidence that you, that you do care about this or whatever. And she's talking about the time he scolded Saber and, some of the other things he's done. Mm-hmm. And she's kind of like... So I did find it, finally.
We took a drink break there as well.
I took a search through my notes break. She took a drink break.
Oh.
So, yeah. Evidence... It was Rin presenting evidence that Archer was secretly rooting for Saber against Castor when Castor corners them on their date. Damning evidence number 1, she says, is the first time they met, Archer went easy on Saber. She said that even with her getting the drop on him, his defensive skills should have been more than enough to keep him safe. And she says damning evidence number 2 is that after the incident with Ryder, Archer tried to provoke Saber which was actually him scolding her. She then kind of comments and says that he's only awkward when it comes to dealing with things related to himself, but he's smooth when dealing with others, which is why no one notices. And I said that it was really cute that Rin really does seem to know him better than he thinks. And he even says when he loses to Shiro in the Battle of Wills, you know, had she been a little more calloused, you know, I never would have reverted to my old self.
Yeah.
And I want to read this one quote from him. It's kind of long, but I think it's an important element as to how Archer views Shiro's ideals, his younger self. The quote is, "If you fight for the desire to keep from hurting anyone else, then do so, but only if that desire is truly yours. If you fight for yourself, any resulting crimes and punishments are of your own making. Borrowing them is part and parcel of that ideal. But if that desire was borrowed from another, the ideals you claim are mere fantasy. If you fight for ideals, you will only be able to save ideals. It does not allow for helping others. Salvation at the hands of another is not salvation. Your wish to save others can probably be achieved, but in doing so, there is no hope of saving yourself. You will cling to ideals not your own and pursue them until it kills you. Nothing comes from helping others. In the end, you can save neither others nor yourself. A lie of a life." And in that moment when rewatching it, it's painfully clear that Archer's talking about himself. But even when first watching it, you get this feeling that he's referring to himself.
Yeah.
But he keeps claiming that he doesn't know who he is.
Yeah.
And
he knew from the moment
he knew the moment he saw Rin. You see it in his face.
Yeah.
You rewatch it, you see it in his face the moment she comes up those stairs.
Yeah.
He looks over and he his eyes widen for a second and then he kind of closes them and then he goes back to being cool again. You know, he
closes both eyes, reopens one.
Reopens one back to, scientists baffled by local man's inability to sit normal. But, he's a fascinating character. And Rin, oh my god, her quote, earlier in that episode, I kept thinking you were similar, but I never imagined you were this identical. Is she referring to Shiro and Archer? It's so hard to tell sometimes.
Yeah. That's how good plot twists be.
Oh my god. I'm angry because you don't get why I'm angry. If that doesn't sum up Rin in a nutshell, I don't know what does.
Yeah.
I mean...
Don't turn around. If you see my face like this, I'll have to kill you.
Yes, that one. I'll never forgive you. Oh my god, that moment when she invited herself over, and she's like, oh, I don't know, Sakura's here all the time, Fujine's here all the time, why are you acting weird now that I'm here?
Yeah.
Huh? And he's just like, oh my god. He's like, Saber's here and she's a girl, and he's like, fuck you. Shiro is probably the most sexually frustrated character that's ever existed.
No.
No?
No. Protag from Rascal. You're...
you're...
Yeah, I know.
Right. But, he's allowed to, be open about it. Shiro has to repress it way harder.
See, I don't know how much he's actually repressing, because he can't read people. He doesn't
Shiro's an absolute moron.
Shiro's a fucking dumbass.
I love him.
He has no fucking clue. I don't think he realizes. He understands it when it's being blatantly shoved directly into his face, and even then sometimes he doesn't.
Oh my god. I'm just remembering more memes.
So,
oh my god.
He can't tell when he's being flirted with. So
Me too.
You assuming that he's frustrated in any way by this is giving him too much credit.
Fair enough. But I mean, even that moment where freaking Saber's sleeping on the other side of the sliding door from him, and he like looks over and he like has this moment where he can like sort of like envision being able to see through the door, and just like sees her sleeping, and he's like, how am I supposed to sleep with you there, God? And it's like, damn, bro, you need to get laid. Like, I love Shiro though. Like,
fucking dumbass.
also, I don't think Archer says his full summoning chant at any point.
Yeah, he does.
Does he?
Yeah.
His full summoning chant?
I think so.
His full summoning chant's long as fuck.
I know.
Here's the longest bit of it that I was able to find. And this wasn't even said by him. This was said by Rin in one of her dreams. I am the bone of my sword. Steel is my body, and fire is my blood. I have created over 1,000 blades, unknown to death, nor known to life, have withstood pain to create many weapons, yet those hands will never hold anything. So as I pray, unlimited blade works.
Yeah,
I know that that's not the full chant.
He says all of that when he does it before he fights Shiro. He does.
I don't know.
He does.
I don't think he says the full chant.
And then Shiro does absolutely say the whole thing, but in Japanese.
The full chant is also really, really stupid long. I'm gonna actually...
Oh my god.
Okay, so I've looked it up. There are several summoning chants for Blade Works, depending on the summoner. This one is saying Archer. I assume this to be Stay Night Archer. I am the bone of my sword. Steel is my body and fire is my blood. I have created over 1,000 blades, unknown to death, nor known to life. Have withstood pain to create many weapons, yet those hands will never hold anything. So as I pray, unlimited blade works. My body is made out of swords. My blood is of iron, my heart is of glass. I have overcome countless battlefields, not even once retreating, not even once being understood. He was always alone, intoxicated with victory in a hill of swords. Thus his life has no meaning. That body was certainly made out of swords. Then...
I think that one might have been in Heaven's Feel.
And then... Oh my god, it's not done. I am the flesh and bone of my own sword. Steel flows through my body, and fire is... Maybe these are alternate translations. And fire is what courses through my blood. I have created over 1,000 blades, unknown to death, nor known to life. Many times I have withstood enormous pain to create thousands of weapons, and yet those hands have braved so much will never hold anything. So as I pray now, I call forth unlimited blade works. And that, yeah, that's just another translation. There's another one. I am the bone of my sword, steel is my body, fire is my blood, I've created over 1,000 blades, unknown to death, nor known to life, withstood pain to create many weapons, yet those hands will never hold anything, so as I pray unlimited blade works. My body is made out of swords, my body is of iron and flame, not choosing the battlefield, never yielding, never amassing anything, never knowing victory. Thus his life has no meaning, that body was certainly made out of swords. And then Shiro's chant. I am the bone of my sword. Steel is my body, fire is my blood. I've created over 1,000 blades, unaware of loss, nor aware of gain. Withstood pain to create many weapons, waiting for one's arrival. I have no regrets. This is the only path. My whole life was unlimited blade works. My body is made out of swords. My blood is of iron, my heart is of glass. I have overcome countless battlefields, not even once retreating, not even once being victorious. The bearer lies here alone, forging iron in a hill of swords. Thus my life needs no meaning. This body is made out of infinite swords. So yeah, there's a lot of different... There's a lot of different summons. Plus, there's different ones for Prism Ilia and for Nameless Archer, for Archer Alter. But yeah, it's interesting because he summons Unlimited Blade Works. Archer summons Unlimited Blade Works twice. And both times he uses a slightly different chant. He also uses part of his chant the first time he summons Calatabog to shoot at Heracles. He simply says, I am the bone of my sword.
I think it's when he's trying to use a noble phantasm of another hero in the real world. But he has to chant a little bit to get the whole...
Did he chant any before he shot Medea out of the sky, though?
Yes. He also chanted when he summoned Elias. So it's when he's using... When he's drawing on
one
a noble
of the
phantasm.
Yeah, one of the phantasms from this collection. It's interesting that he has Elias because that's not a weapon, really. I mean.
Oh no, but I mean.
I guess
are you looking to defend yourself or deal some damage?
Oh my god, no. You're finally awake. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, because he uses the only time you see him say Calatabog is when he shoots Medea. He doesn't say Calatabog when he shoots Heracles with it.
Mm.
He just says, I am the bone of my sword, and then he goes, blah!
Mm-hmm.
And then I think he says, I am the bone of my sword, Calatabog, before he shoots Medea, and it fucks her shit up. And then...
Okay.
and then, does he just say, I am the bone of my sword before summoning Elias?
No, he says Elias as well, I'm pretty sure.
No, I mean, like, it's just that first line.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, interesting. Maybe it's like opening the gate a little.
Yeah.
I'm the bone of... that's enough, grab it. Grab it, go. I really like that they explained... Shiro explained that his magic is not... His projections are not summoning swords. His ability is summoning a world filled with infinite swords.
It's very similar to Gilgamesh's Gates of Babylon.
And that's exactly why Gilgamesh sees him as such a threat.
Yeah.
And that's why he's the only one that can defend against Gilgamesh.
Because Gil's whole thing is his Gates of Babylon are portals to his personal treasury.
Yeah.
Which I guess he has some sort of like organization system where he knows where everything is.
Imagine he's just like,
he opens a portal and just purse. Start pouring.
It's like a purse. He can never find what he's looking for when he needs it.
He's like monologuing and being all like, "Foo, I'm so good. I'm so much better than all of you." He opens a bunch of portals and one of them opens and just like gold and gems just starts pouring out of it.
comes out of one like, yo,
by
what?
Accident. And it's just like, shit.
Get back in there.
No, not that one.
Starts spilling wine all over the place. Motherfucker.
God damn it. I was saving that for a special occasion.
But, yeah,
So he must have some sort of, like, organization system where he knows where everything is. But he opens portals.
Yeah.
And pulls things through them from his treasury.
Mm-hmm.
And that seems to be
the same
similar
idea as what
it seems like...
But Archer's is cooler.
Shiro, like, creates some sort of pathway from his reality marble to the real world.
Archer's is cooler because Archer can modify his weapons because he can use his strengthening magic to alter them.
Yeah.
Which is why he's able to shoot Tonto knives and spears out of his fucking bow.
Calatabog is a sword.
I guess it is a sword, and I hate that.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but it's a lance.
It's
Calatabog's
terrible.
a lance.
It's terrible.
Okay.
It's a lance, but it's a sword.
It's a lance. And if you say it's a sword again, I'm gonna snap your fucking neck.
It's not a spear, though.
Yeah, it's
It's a lance in the sense of wow, I suddenly can't remember the medieval sport of running on horseback towards each other.
Isn't that just jousting?
Jousting, yes, thank you.
I was gonna say, I almost said something really stupid. I almost said, isn't that just called lancing? And then
that's where my brain was getting stuck, and I knew that was not correct.
Yeah.
But I couldn't get past that. So that's what Kaladabog is it's just a jousting lance.
Basically. Cursed spiral sword is what archers summon for it is. Question for you. When Shiro is summoning Unlimited Blade Works, and he's being sword spammed by Gilgamesh, Elias appears. Who summons that?
I assume he does.
I used to assume the same thing. But I've heard that Archer summons it to protect him while he's finishing the chant. Because he never says Elias. And if you look at it, the Elias that's summoned in that moment has the same number of like shields or petals or whatever as the one summoned in the fight with Lancer, but Shiro's that he summons inside the reality marble is different. That's what they've said. I need to go back and I need to examine it closer, but I have heard people say that the one who summoned Elias in that moment was not Shiro, and that the only reason Shiro knew how to summon Elias is because that was the first time he observed it.
Yeah, I guess.
Because he wouldn't have observed it otherwise.
The argument could be made, though, that he learned of it at some point during his sword clashing with Archer. But
feasibly, but still, what Shiro summoned was not Archer's Unlimited Blade Works. It was his own, which would be different. It would contain his weapons.
No, I know.
And to be able to use a weapon, he has to be able to see it. That's what his magic can do. Can mimic any weapon he sees. And the argument basically is he sees Elias being used. He's able to observe and understand it. And in the moment in the reality marble when he needs to protect himself from basically the dome that Gills builds around him of swords, he calls upon it in that moment. That's what I've heard, at least. But yeah, I just was curious as to whether you got that same impression from that scene.
I wasn't watching it nearly as analytically as you were. I was watching it as a refresher so that I could competently review it.
Right.
But
it makes sense.
Possible.
Yeah, it makes sense either way.
It tracks with Archer not wanting anybody else to kill Shiro.
It also tracks with the fact that Archer at that moment wanted Shiro to make it. I hope Archer finds his redemption.
Well,
I would still really like to see. There's a spin-off. There was a spin-off to Zero. You know which one I'm talking about.
Remind me.
It has to do with the good boy. The good boy who survived Zero.
Oh.
Yeah. There's a spin-off to Zero, and I still really want to see a spin-off, a Shiro spin-off. Or not even so much, well, just a Heroic Spirit Emiya spin-off where it shows the conflict that caused him to, make the deal with the Canon Force and do the things that he did that turned him into Archer. Like, I would like to see that. I think that'd be really neat.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think Naosu wants to keep it ambiguous. there's details out there. I don't know if they're from mangas or whatever, but there are details out there that it was basically there was a disease or something, and he made a deal with the counter force to be able to develop a cure for it. And it was like 400 different, 400 people were sick and dying or something like that, and he saved them all. And then some other stuff happened, and then he got basically fingered as being the person who masterminded the whole conflict to begin with. And that's why he was executed at the end. Yeah, it's interesting. Is there anything more that you want to bring up before we, it seems like we're getting to a point where, there's a lot more to say. There's so much more to say, but I feel like a lot of it is best saved for a discussion, a very specific discussion-based episode.
Yeah, I mean,
can you think of
I'm also trying not to talk too much about Sakura too, because
we can't talk about Sakura because she wasn't really in it.
Well, she was in it some, and we barely touched on the things that she was in it for, but that's because
they were inconsequential.
Well, but there's so much more in Heaven's Feel.
Well, yeah, and we'll get to that when we talk about Heaven's Feel.
So that's what I mean.
Okay, I was like,
that's what I'm getting at. It's like we're not going to talk about her now because Heaven's Feel is all about her. I don't feel like that's a spoiler.
Oh my God, spoilers!
I don't think that's a spoiler. Yeah, no, I mean...
Can you think of anything specifically review-based? Specifically about reviewing Blade Worms? Can you think of anything that we did not get to address? That you think is important, that we ought to? Because I still have my final impressions. And I will read those.
I mean...
But I wanted to save those for the end.
I don't know. I said it earlier. It's good. Just watch it. Like
it's such. It's like I feel like I could talk about this show non-stop without even touching on any of the spin-offs for probably like 8 hours.
I mean, it's like.
And continue to have new stuff to say.
We said it already, but it's like it tries to disguise itself as like 3 different things before finally settling on the fact that it's a character drama.
Yeah.
Like it advertises itself as an action anime. Then it starts itself off as a slice of life anime, and then it goes back to being an action anime for a little while.
It's like a tournament arc too, like in a sense.
Yeah.
It's like maybe that's not the right word.
I mean,
it's like a battle royale.
Well, it is a battle royale.
It's Fortnite.
It is a battle royale.
Sure, the Grail War is just a Fortnite ripoff.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm gonna just try to forget that.
It'll be back to haunt your dreams.
But yeah, it really it's so. It seems to be like doing a similar thing to like Rascal Does Not Dream of Bunny Girl Senpai. It's clickbait.
Yeah.
Look at me, I'm this really cool flashy action anime with lots of cool fight scenes and lots of action and drama, and just kidding, it's all drama.
Yeah.
It's a character drama. You're here now. You're stuck here. You love it.
You love it. You fucking love it. And you know you do, you fucking coward.
Like, it draws you in with promises of action, and it delivers, but also, they're all sad. And here's how we're going to deal with that.
By making you sad?
Yeah.
I'm sad. Like.
But that's what I mean, it's like, it tries to market itself as something that it isn't. And then it switcheroos on us. And then you're not mad about it.
Fair enough. I'm gonna have a lot more to say once we do like a discussion episode. I noticed so many more interesting tie-ins to Zero upon this watch than I had noticed ever before because I was paying extra attention. Even in fucking Sunny Day, there's a Zero tie-in.
Yeah.
And there's going to be a lot to talk about then. One quote I wrote down here even was, in Sunny Day, Saber says, "He said that I was wrong. I'd like you to give me the answer to that one day." Seems really out of the blue. But I think if I go back and I'm gonna go back and rewatch Zero next, and I think sitting down, analyzing that, and really thinking about that quote in particular while I'm rewatching it, I think I'll be able to find the answer. And I think I'll find the answer to a lot more things too. I'll say Unlimited Blade Works is the best place to start. Unlimited Blade Works is the best place to start because Unlimited Blade Works it functions perfectly as an introductory experience. You don't need to have seen anything else before watching it.
Right.
You don't need to know shit before watching it. And part of the reason it's so good is because you watch it and then you can watch it again and enjoy it more.
Yeah.
And then you can watch the prequel
Yeah.
and watch it again and enjoy it even more. You can keep bouncing back to it.
Ideal watch order. UBW.
Yep.
Zero.
Yep.
Heaven's Feel.
Yep.
Today's menu for Emiya family. Because you'll need it.
You'll need it by the time you finish Heaven's Feel, I'm sure. Yeah, I mean, I can't really disagree with that order.
Notice how I skipped Dean's Stay Night.
Yeah, that's it. We still need to review that.
I know.
I'm nervously excited to see what Ufotable's plans are now that they finished Heaven's Feel 3.
It would be real nice if they went back to the original Stay Night route. That'd be real nice.
Fans are discussing a few things that we hope. Probably none of them are going to be true. But there's a possibility. One is finally a remake of the Fate route.
Dean's Stay Night, yeah.
Finally.
Yeah.
Because they already remade Blade Works. Blade Works is a remake from a 2008 or 2009 movie.
Yeah.
That was also by Studio Dean, and it was also terrible. I started watching it. I got 20 minutes in, and I had to shut it off. This is me.
I know.
I finished all of Extra.
You also watched Prisma-Ilia.
Prisma is good. Fuck you.
It's...
We'll talk about that later, though. I will be reviewing that, by the way. You can all look forward to that.
You're gonna have to get Eric or something to.
I would have to get somebody to watch that garbage with
Kate
me.
will.
Maybe Kate will. But it's long. It's long. It's 4 seasons.
It's ongoing.
Yeah, but they're taking a hiatus right now.
Okay, it's ongoing.
I still need to find the movie. The movie's supposed to be really good. Anyway, you good there? Good, fam?
This one fucking fruit
fly
there's
one fly
that's
been
terrorizing
flying
me.
around you the entire time we've been recording, and it's been really...
There was actually 2. I got one of them.
There was just one kind of chilling on the wall next to me, but I didn't let him bother me because
Why didn't you kill it?
Because I was in the middle of talking.
Connor, you see a fruit fly, you kill it.
A gnat? You called me a gnat? Be lucky I'm not comparing you to a harmful insect. I guess I mean, we can probably wrap here.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, we'll have a lot more to say later.
I have thoughts.
There are thoughts. There are lots of them. I'm sure on Twitter and shit eventually we'll be posting like an official like recommended watch order for everything. You can find them online, but a lot of people disagree on things.
Yeah.
We'll probably post one. I still need to, and I hate to break it to you, you do too. Still need to rewatch. You still need to go back and watch the Dean's Stay Night. I know, but
I'd almost rather read the VN.
I don't have 90 hours to do it to a VN.
I don't have, what, like 8 hours to devote to a bad anime?
I don't think it's that long. I think it's pretty short. But
it's still a bad anime.
I guess. Right, I never actually finished my thought. Yeah, so they were talking about possibly remaking the Fate route or doing Hollow Ataraxia, which would also be really cool because that'd be the first time they did an anime
adaptation. People would be really excited. I think I've heard about that, and people are really excited about like even the vague possibility of that happening.
Yeah, I just everybody I've been talking to has been like, I don't know how the fuck they'd pull that off because the timeline's fucked because it's Groundhog Day basically. It's a Groundhog Day situation, and it's all taking place in Bezet's mind. It's like,
yeah,
but whatever. We'll see what happens. We'll see what they announce. But we're gonna cap it here. I mean, expect more discussion on Blade Works.
Mm-hmm.
Expect a lot more. Mm-hmm. Morgan really wants to come in and talk about it. I'm sure Pat and I are gonna be reviewing Zero. I'm sure he's going to want to talk about Blade Works at some point, too. Kate, I'm sure, is going to want to talk about Blade Works. And she will want to talk about Zero. And she's going to be doing the review of Heaven's Feel.
Yeah.
We'll be having people on to have these discussions because there's so much that we couldn't cover.
Yeah.
Because we're trying to keep it focused on just a review. As it is, I mean, we've been here for like 2 hours, 2.5 hours.
2.5 hours.
So, but that's not even our longest review.
No.
That's actually pretty short. And I'm going to cut it down a lot more than this.
Yeah.
So, but final impressions. Do you have any final impressions you want to close on? Or would you like me to go first?
Most of my final impressions are more overarching all of Fate commentary.
Do you have any final impressions specific that you can specifically focus on Blade Works?
Not really. Like, it's hard for me to, because I've watched all of them.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to, like, not just maintain my thoughts on, like, the whole series.
Do you think somebody could watch just Blade Works and...
I mean, probably. If you lack curiosity,
well, I mean,
that's the thing. It's like
do you think
it sparks interest in like, yes, absolutely. It is a successful standalone anime.
Self-contained.
Sure. Like, yeah, it is a self-contained story. It is a single character's arc from salvation to damnation, basically. And it touches on other characters' arcs along the way, but primarily that's it. It is a self-contained story, sure.
I like the way you phrase that, too.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's what it is. I mean, he's committing himself to a life of damnation.
No, I know, but I haven't heard it. I haven't heard it phrased like that. I really like that.
Thanks. Sometimes I say good words.
I mean, doubt, but alright. Like.
But to me, it's hard for me to consider not wanting to know anything about these other characters because that's just not the kind of person I am. But if you're the kind of person who's like, yes, that was a good story, I'm okay now.
Yeah.
Then yeah, it's a good standalone anime. It is a self-contained story.
True.
It resolves itself.
True. Well, I guess One last thing before my final impressions, because I don't know if I actually mentioned this or not. Part of the reason the Fate timeline is so confusing. Fate series ascribes to string theory and the butterfly effect. So basically, the reason I said Sunny Day is an alternate ending and it's my canon ending is because it is a canon ending.
Yeah. It's animated by Ufotable, written by Nasu.
And so is the other ending, the Netflix ending.
Yeah.
And so is Heaven's Feel. And so is the Fate route.
Yeah.
And so is every route in the VN in which Shiro dies.
Yeah.
You know, they're all canon. It's all parallel universes where, you know, that's why it makes sense as a VN.
Yeah.
And it was weird to adapt it to an anime because it's like, well, what do we do? Like,
yeah.
They succeeded clearly.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's, you know, you get a lot of things that's like Apocrypha. Apocrypha has nothing to do with, you know, it separates from the timeline before the events of Fate Zero.
Yeah.
So it has nothing to do with that timeline, but it has more in line with Zero and Blade Works and, you know, Stay Night and shit than Extra does, because Extra is an entire parallel dimension where things are completely different.
Yeah. Surprise, we're on the moon.
Yeah, and you have that, and
but
then
Rin exists and Shinji exists. What?
You have Nameless Archer exists.
Yeah.
You have Prisma Ilia, which is its own whole thing, and the canon of that is, and even in Prisma Ilia, they travel between different dimensions.
Yeah.
It's all such a clusterfuck. It's so confusing if you don't know what you're looking for, which is why when I go to recommend people, I just basically say, Blade Works, Zero, Heaven's Feel. Now you've watched the main series.
Yeah.
Now you can watch whatever spin-offs
watch
you want.
Apocrypha.
Fate Zero, not Fate Zero, fuck, I'm stupid. Fate Grand Order. The fucking Grand Order animes so far have been phenomenal, and I'll touch on those later, but like, it's confusing until it gets explained.
Mm-hmm.
So, for the time being, feel free to take our word for it. Watch Blade Works first.
Yeah.
And my final impressions. This series, to this day, is my favorite single piece of media that exists. Every time I rewatch it, I pick up on something new. It's best to go in blind first, but like no matter what, you know, even if it's been spoiled for you, nearly everyone should give this series a chance. It managed to turn someone from hating anime into a weeb, and it's the series that got me to fully realize how much anime could truly speak to someone. Mm-hmm. If you enjoy action or you enjoy drama, this is 100%. This is a must watch. Mm-hmm. Must watch.
For sure.
So, with that, we're going to close out next week. It has to be next week because I'm out of time. Next week, Zero.
Yes.
Which means I'm going to spend every day after work this week watching Zero and taking notes.
You better not fall asleep again.
Don't speak to me. I'm going to have to do that every day this week. So that's going to be fun. I also have to find time to edit this and release it. And I still owe you guys Death Parade. It's coming. It's probably not going to be till the end of the month.
At the earliest.
Because I have it recorded. It's done. It's literally done. I just need to edit it. And my laptop's been a bitch, so I have not touched it. So, I'll get it edited. I'll probably do it after we get the spoiler cast discussion episode for Heaven's Feel 3 out. That'll be my break. I'll release that 2 weeks after or whatever, and that'll be my break so that I can get a couple weeks off from having to binge shows. But yeah, anticipate Zero next week. Death Parade probably end of the month. So, anything you want to add before we go?
No, I'm okay.
Alrighty. Well, then that was a. Well, I guess I'll find out in editing how successful of a return episode that was.
Yeah.
I know we left so much out.
I feel like once we got through the episode summaries, the wheels fell off a little bit, but we'll see.
Yeah. I'm kind of like low key. I'm glad that I did that because I know we would have forgotten to mention so much of that shit
Well,
if I didn't do that. So, but it'll all get addressed. We'll have many episodes talking about Fate. So
yeah, I mean, there was like one specific point that I always yell to people that I specifically left out of this to bring up because it isn't just about Bladeworks, it's about Fate overall. So I'll bring that up on one of the discussion apps.
Alrighty, well, thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for sticking with us, and thank you for checking out this episode so long after this podcast appeared to have died. I appreciate anyone and everyone who listens. Any feedback you guys have is more than welcome.
Yeah, feedback.
If you're following us on SoundCloud, feel free to give us a follow. If you're following us on YouTube, give us a like, sub if you want. We're going to try to be posting regularly again going forward.
Hopefully.
So, just depends how much real life gets in the way. But
Twitter, just, I guess, retweet. I know Twitter decided to radically change how their website is structured, but please retweet.
We have a new logo, too.
Yes.
We have a new logo.
Yes, it should be live within a few days.
Yeah, so hopefully...
of recording this. So
fingers
y'all
crossed
will see
by the
it
time this
before
episode is out.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
Hopefully.
I anticipate to get this out at the latest next weekend. Like, right around when I record the following episode. We'll see what happens. But anyway, thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. And until next time, keep watching that Weeb shit.